so dysfunctional, weak and emotional feelings I just can't contain. Escaping this misery, you're breaking free, not a possibility. A soul for why in my computation, but miss vital information. The variable so devastating. I'm the X. I'm the X. I'm the X.
Yes, everybody, welcome to Trek Time and our Season 2 of Strange New Worlds review. We're going to go over the entirety of the season and talk about episodes, talk about characters, our thoughts, our feelings along the way, and I hope you enjoyed.
It's a 10-hour marathon, everybody. Get yourselves in your seats.
Strap yourselves in. We're going to strap your ears in for a ride. No, strap your ears in. Stars and Auto, we're going to take them for a ride. That's the term I think it was. But anyway, yes, we are here. Thank you, Stars and Auto, joining us. We're going to spend some time on this one. I think we're going to go over our thoughts. We all sort of sat and rewatched.
Oh, I thought we were going to slap dash it.
Yeah, we're just like as usual. We're just gonna just like go over. Yeah, it's all great. Let's just talk about like potatoes or something like we usually do, and every time we talk about something, just go off topic completely. But no.
How's about we tier potato like byproducts? So we've got like crisps, then you've got chips, then you've got baked potatoes, and it's like you just like
tater tots.
I think that's
exactly. There you go.
That's a butter zone. The iconic tiering of potato byproducts. Speaking of byproducts, have you quite got over your Babs obsession yet, Auto?
It is deep into an unhealthy level. The number of times that Babs and whipped cream have come up in the same sentence is unfathomable. By the way, seriously, folks, grab a drink, grab a snack. We're going to be in it for a while. This has been a great season overall. There's been ups and downs for sure, and a lot of people commented about shifts in tone and whatnot, but there have been some bangers in they can stand up with the best of Star Trek or even surpass it. So I'm really excited to get into this.
And as always, everyone,
I think if
your feelings as well, and we'll respond accordingly.
Yeah, like whenever they say, "Oh, we're going to swing for the fences this season," you always think, you're kind of just saying that because you're gonna. Season 1, you're always playing it a little bit safe, and then it's like, no, they just swung for the fences, and it paid off most of the time. I would say, I think that's fair to say. There's a few bits and pieces I think we're going to go over that they didn't quite land, but I don't know. I think if you blew out the overall, if you got like a percentage of this season,
correction, sir, that's sucked out.
Damn right. If you had like the proportion of this season that is like fucking rock solid or perfect Trek, and then you extended it out to have full 26 season, this would probably surpass any season of TNG or DS9 for sheer quality. Like if this was a 26 episode season and all of the episodes were of roughly this quality, like I don't think anything else would come close. Not even TOS season 1.
It's interesting as well because
we only have the 10, so
we do, and I think though there's enough commonality with seasons because these were filmed back to back. I think there's as along season 3 is hopefully filming soon once the strikes are resolved. But 1 and 2 were filmed back to back, so you can kind of consecutively say they are, although named 2 seasons, essentially they are programmed as one. So we could say we have one 20-season season, just the way it was all produced. So it's quite cohesive with themes as well. There are arcs that carry on, like the Gorn, like the Chapel Spock stuff as well, that do continue through. So yeah, it could be considered a 20-episode season if you want to look at it that way, and you want to be that 90s.
If you want to close your eyes and squint,
yeah, a little bit. But yes, so not only are we're gonna break it down episode by episode, and we're gonna talk about characters as well. We're gonna talk about overarching themes. But we also got something else we're gonna do today. We are gonna enter things into our very special. What are we gonna enter them into, Auto?
The Kivas Faljo Jovis Trophy Room.
That's right.
Which is a terrible working title. We still got to figure that out. It's the Hall of Awesome. We are going to induct moments, lines, people, or full episodes into the Kivas Faljo Emporium of awesome shit.
And this is
we're going to come up with a good title.
This is an elite thing. This is we're not just going to chuck random things from every episode in there. These are things that like we all collectively agree are like the most important parts of Star Trek. Well, things that we can say.
Now that's a Star Trek.
We can point and go, that's what you watch Star Trek for. So these are things, and then we might have some to put in here this week for this season. We might not, but we'll continue. Shall we start, gentlemen?
Yes, we will. We just brought it up, of course. We're gonna have stuff to go in there.
I just like to bring it up just to tease it out there, just to say we've got this cool thing, but you can't have it.
Okay. We may or we may not. I was mistaken earlier.
It's a quantum award
so much for
ceremony.
suspense.
Let's start. Top of the season. The Broken Circle. A distress call from Lieutenant Noonien Singh compels Spock to disobey orders and take the USS Enterprise and its crew into disputed space, risking renewed hostilities with the Klingons in a bid to aid their shipmate. Shall I give you guys a breakdown of how you reviewed this episode? So myself, I gave
I'm curious
go back
actually
over the past ratings that we did on previous Trek. So I originally gave it a 7. Stars, you gave it
7 what?
Sorry. Oh yeah, no, you are quite correct. You gave 7 Vamonosas out of 10. I gave it that. Stars, you gave it 8 Vamonosas. Auto, you haven't rated yet this one. This is the one episode you.
Because you weren't there, right?
No.
Yeah, I think I'll do that at the end of our discussion.
Okay.
But I did rewatch it even today, and I enjoyed it. I really did.
All right, next episode.
Yeah. So.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
There's stuff to break down here.
There is.
So, what I think is interesting about episode 1 is that if you kind of close your eyes and squint a little bit, and I'm not saying this just because of the reuse of Discovery sets, although it kind of is that, there's a lot of commonalities with Discovery here, like in terms of like some of the directorial choices, obviously the reuse of sets, but also like the continuing on of the plot lines from Discovery season 2. The way that sort of like, Chapel and Mbenga kind of come into the forefront is very much similar to a few plot lines that say like Culber and a few other characters had in season 1 and season 2 of Discovery. Culber. And I really just appreciated how, even though Discovery is, to put it bluntly, controversial and is not unanimously liked, Strange New Worlds is not ashamed of the fact that it is essentially a Discovery spin-off, if you think about it. And it's like, no, we're going to wear it on our sleeves, and we're going to bring in the parts that everyone liked about Discovery, and then we're going to take some of the bits that people were maybe a bit so-so on, and kind of draw them into the light and go, okay, let's take a different tack or focus in on with different characters and see how people like it more. And I think that, especially when we get to talk about episode 8, that becomes even more acute because that is explicitly taking place during that time frame. I know. But yeah, I think that like episode 1, The Broken Circle, is very, very similar to an episode of Discovery, right down to having some weird directorial choices, like that whole thing when they go down through the floor, which I recalled that and the fight scenes were the parts that annoyed you guys the most during the review.
Definitely. And I think in hindsight, now that we've had Under the Cloak of War to explain, like, I feel like I'm still judgmental on it because they kind of go into this massive fight scene with this drug that just turns out of nowhere and kind of give them an action hero moment with no recompense. But it takes them to episode 8 to go, oh yeah, we developed this drug during the war and he became the butcher. Oh yeah, I should pretense this whole thing, by the way, people are saying spoilers for the entire season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, spoiler free too. Like, fuck off. Spoiler free for season 2. That's not why.
But at any point, yeah. So Under the Cloak of War, they come around and actually say, yeah, he developed this drug to become.
So
the butcher of Jagal.
Imagine someone starts a review while they're like watching episode 9. They're like, "I'm sure I'll finish Strange New Worlds by the time they're ready to talk about the episode I'm on." I'm like, come on. Yes, we're gonna spoil everything.
You never know. Someone's just probably listening to this in the background. And go, shit. Anyway. So to the point where he develops this drug, becomes the Butcher of Jagal, or not? And I feel like that maybe could have been explained a little bit better at the start of the episode. And the whole.
So I was thinking about this.
M'Benga's involvement in the war wasn't really really explained until the start of this episode. Like, it would have been nice maybe proceeding into season 1 or maybe delaying this episode to give a little bit of, and I said this in our review, I think just to give us a bit more lead up into it rather than just go, they're awesome action heroes, now they're upside down, but really they're not.
I think that this is one of those instances of, so like I've written like short stories in the past, and it's like every now and then you hit this thing of, I want to have an emotional beat, and I want to have characters at certain points in their relationship at a certain part of the story, and it's going to cause a bit of a disconnect, because in order for Butcher of Jagal and the whole Under Cloak of War to really hit home, Spock and Chapel have to be at a very certain point in their relationship, and they are just not there at the end of season 1. So you need to give them time to develop and to cook, essentially. And you need more time to develop other characters and get them into places where it makes sense. And also, Pike's reduced role in the first half of the season means that he wouldn't be there to provide the idealistic contrast, which is kind of essential for episode 8. So I feel like, while I definitely agree that this all stuff kind of comes out of nowhere, it's like, oh, suddenly we can do Captain America bullshit. That would have been good context to have, later on in the season. It's one of those things of, I bet you the writers were like, yeah, this is a bit out of nowhere. We're asking the people to take us on faith, because I think even in the review we were like, we have to assume this is going to come up and there's going to be a reason why they didn't use this. And guess what? They explained it.
Yeah.
But it's still a case of, in isolation, it does hurt the episode, and I feel like the writers were aware of that, and they were like, "This is just a sacrifice of structuring the season the way we have, and putting needing characters to be in certain places at certain times." I feel like that's kind of what that casualty is, and I can forgive it. I feel like my view on this episode has gone up a little bit because of the context of episode 8 and understanding now, because I was like, well, I'm sure they have a reason. I'm sure it must let you fuck up your body something fierce, and then Mbang is like, guess what? It's almost like shooting yourself full of adrenaline, all these, goddamn ridiculous Captain America drugs is bad for your health to do on a regular basis. It's like, okay, cool. That is literally the thing I assumed. But getting it in, context and hearing it from the character itself is a different prospect.
I disagree. I think it still needs to be flipped. I think they both feed into each other, and they both help you appreciate the other one. But I think one needs 8 more than 8 needs 1. Stuff like the serum, they play it more mysterious in episode 8. Episode 8 than they do in 1, and so I think you want to build the mystery that way. The relationship stuff makes a little more sense. Their bond, when you see it first forged where it started in war, which I think they did such a fucking fantastic job in 8 of establishing certain things that even in that short time period that builds enough for you to see then what they would become in 1. I just think it does work better the other way, and I remember being confused by certain things when I first watched 1, and then when they do 8, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But without the benefit of rewatching, sometimes it just leaves that weird taste in the back of your mouth where you're like, I was a little bit lost in 1 and now I get it. But if they had flipped it, then maybe you would. So, but I think it can work either way. So maybe it is just a matter of discretion. But I think 8 and then 1, just in terms of the story.
Oh yeah, I definitely think in terms of cohesion would have made sense. But I feel like they were kind of victims of circumstance here. Like I feel like it was a case of, can we, Anson, are you sure? He's like, bro, I'm literally looking after my newborn child. It's like, okay, fine, we'll fuck it around. The plot lines will suffer a little bit, but it's like, guess what? I'm sure he has an extremely beautiful baby with wonderful hair. So I actually really like episode 1. Like even I remember you gave it a 7, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I think on
and I thought that was a little bit low because you were penalizing it really heavily for the directorial choices and the fight scenes. It's like the rest of the episode around it is really tightly constructed, and it's got a lot of political intrigue, a little bit of covert action, a little bit of character development for Uhura and Lon. It's got the really cool sequence where they're chasing the crossfield class through the freaking red asteroid field. You get all the Klingon stuff with Spock, which is great. Like there's a lot of really good stuff going on.
No,
there.
I think in hindsight,
I'm a sucker for a stealing the Enterprise sequence. I love those every time they come up.
I think
Dude, if they would have just
Sorry,
if they would have just ripped the Search for Spock theme while they're flying out of space rock, I'd have been like, all right, 10 out of 10. Yes, let's
Guess what? You get away with it. If you are literally stealing the Enterprise from Space Dock, you get a pass. It's James Horner. No one will complain.
I think I'll up it to an 8. I think I definitely liked. I can now. I don't want to say forgive the sequence. The sequence was still bad. Like
it makes
them
more sense
fighting for
context.
5 minutes was a bad directorial choice. Like that's.
A bit much.
But that is, you're right. That is the only real complaint I have with the episode. This episode does have one of the best Klingons and he's only in it for a fraction of a moment, where he just basically says like, "What are you doing
archetypal.
here? Let's have a drinking contest." Like that's hands down, he's great.
Why do you fear decimals, Idol?
Why do I fear decimal? This is not the decimal I fear. It is what they imply.
The decimal represents. Yeah.
I like solid whole numbers.
Ambiguity.
So if we can pull back,
8.66667.
not repeating, mind you, I went to the 10,000th place, and that's a 7.
Yeah.
If they ever do an episode called Pi, I'm going to give it 3.14159, and don't care how good the episode is, it has to have that rating.
All right, so let's go big picture again. If there's one thing that you can remember each episode for, what stands out for me is this was the perfect hybridization of episodic and serialized. They had so many threads running through it. They picked up from season 1. There was Gorn stuff with Oriana. But it felt really episodic. And you can also sit down and watch it and get enough context from the beginning that you could just watch it from pillar to post and still get what it's all about and be entertained. So I think, a serialization for me has been the Boogeyman. I didn't like the way Discovery did it, but I think if they do more meld like this, I think it works really well, and then maybe they can flirt more with the. I mean, they definitely weren't afraid of weaving storylines all the way through this season with pretty much everyone's character arc. So it's not true episodic like your daddy's Star Trek was, but I think they really are getting in a groove with how they hybridize it, and this episode I think was a perfect microcosm of that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Now, I also remember, so this is our first exposure to Pelia, and I remember the accent. So yeah, like I know that it's controversial. I still really like her character especially with all the content we've gotten. She's been a good force and a very different style of engineer to Hemmer, but it's still a welcome presence. I know the accent was grating for you guys. Have you softened on it as time has gone on?
I didn't mind it.
Okay,
but...
so
go on.
This episode has the scariest line in all of Star Trek, because Uhura says, "That's the accent. You're Lanthanite," which means if they introduce any more Lanthanites, they're all going to have to talk like this for the entire show, and that's going to be a little bit distracting. So maybe they'll retcon that. And
She's a Northern Lanthanite.
No, you get Miracle Max from Princess Bride in. There you go. He'll play the only other male Lanthanite you'll see.
Yeah, I have to admit,
Mel Brooks.
It does. It is an accent. Yeah, fucking hell.
Too tall.
Can you imagine?
Too tall and too young for Lanthanite.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, it was grating. It's an accent that I had to either rewatch or put the subtitles on for. It was a tough sell, but it didn't ruin the character for me. Like I really like Pelia for her actions once I realised what they were, and her little like when she's introduced to Spock on the bridge, she's almost like flirty and playing. It's like, I want to steal the ship. Let's do this shit. Come on, like
she's such a bonkers little weirdo, which I appreciate in a character. I love characters who are weird little gremlins when you scratch the surface, and she really like gets that going. Like that's why I almost always love the engineers in Star Trek, because they are just so weird.
Oh,
hey, Shai, how you doing? Why aren't you here?
Getting it, Shai.
So, I don't know if we'll do her character arc later, but she's been an interesting study for me. I think it helped a lot to go watch interviews with Carol Kane and be like, oh, that's actually really close to her real voice. So I thought it was just an affectation, which I felt was unnecessary. But it being pretty much her real voice, I've kind of softened on that. It's still like it is a little nails on the chalkboardy, just in terms of grabbing your attention. But her character arc, I feel like, has disappointed a little bit. They haven't leaned in. I hate to do this, but it's sitting right there. It's the Guinan thing. I wish they would lean more into the Eon's age and all of her information and specialties and stuff. And she's kind of more just the ship's counselor, it feels like she's settled into, which is a fine role to have for storytelling. But I wish they'd pull out a little bit more of her mystical alien side, because right now she's just like a short human with a weird voice.
I
feel like
the biggest misstep was introducing her to say like, oh yes, I came out to Amanda, like she was the first person I told on Amanthanite. Then Amanda turns up and they don't have a scene together. That was the huge misstep with Penny this season. Why would you do that? Why would you say that and then not have them talk to each other when they're on the same
ship? To be fair, I imagine it must have been a scheduling thing or something, but I still appreciate. I'm still gonna like love that moment forever because I love that Amanda got recognized in her own right as an entity apart from Sarek. Like this, guess what? If you want to play fucking character arcs, like season 2 of Strange New Worlds has been immensely kind to Amanda, who was great on Discovery but didn't get really enough of her own stuff to do. And here I really like what they did with her. So the stuff with Pelia, I feel like it's a little bit different than it was with Hemmer, because I feel like we had just as much Hemmer, but Hemmer was obviously, they knew exactly where he was going to end up and what his role in the story was. So it's like, cool, we have to write so that you love him, and then we have to kill him off in a really heartbreaking way. But Pelia is sticking around for season 3, and we're going to see her relationship with Scotty. We're going to see her relationship with Uhura, maybe even with Una, because like that was kind of a thing growing up in episode 6. And like I feel like because of that, we might have to wait a bit more to see her character really come into its own, because they seem to have decided that the engineer is more of a supporting character rather than a main character, even though they're credited kind of the same, because they don't appear every episode. And like I guess that means that you're going to have to just have like a bit more of a decompressed character arc for them. But I've enjoyed her in every time she's turned up, and I especially really loved like her role in episode 7 where we're talking to Boimler. I really enjoyed that. She's
growing on me, and yeah, her stuff with Una in 6, which we'll get to, I like too. Yeah, I think they are getting a little bit, they're leaning too much on the he was my student, good, bad kind of joke. I'm like, all right, it's been like 4 times this season. Let's let that one go. But I view her a lot more favorably than I did the first time she appeared, for sure.
It's a grower.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing I like, especially about this season, is addressed in this episode and in Subspace Rhapsody, is beginnings of Spock's dealing with Klingons and what pushes him to become like the Klingons' liaison in the undiscovered country, and this whole like starts like, well, I can just drink my way to every negotiation. That's a nice nod to a legacy of the character being established without you really knowing you needed that. That was quite nice. Like,
well, that's the big advantage of actually doing a prequel, is if you do it right, you're not just capitalizing off nostalgia. You're not just going, oh, I recognize that character, I'll watch that.
I remember.
You're going, well, especially with TOS and the movies, because the TOS and the movies are so very different in terms of style and kind of also characterization, especially when it comes to Kirk. So when you take a retroactive look at them and you have all that knowledge, you can go, how do I make these pieces fit together in a way that feels more naturalistic? Because you're like, in Undiscovered Country, you kind of just have to accept that Spock is doing diplomatic stuff with Klingons because he's never really set it up before. Like he had just, he doesn't have as much like hang-ups as Kirk obviously does, but it's like you never saw him doing the stuff he's doing in Strange New Worlds. But that's the advantage of doing a prequel, is you can make it all more naturalistic, so that when you go back to it, you go, actually, you know what? Yeah, this is like a nice cohesive way of filling in the blanks and not fixing things, but enhancing the story.
They've done so right by Spock that I shouldn't speak this into the universe, but I'm almost wondering if they can do the same for Kirk, because to this point, I haven't enjoyed what they've done with Kirk and his representation of it, but they've done Spock so damn well. I just wonder, and we'll talk later about the minor characters and the kind of glow-ups they've had, but that is the strength of, this is not a sequel, or this is not a prequel for the sake of a prequel, which is surprising to me because Hollywood does it all the time, but they've done some great stuff. The genesis in this episode of Spock's musicianship I found interesting.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's if you're watching TOS for the first time, you're thinking, oh, if he's emotionless, why is he playing beautiful music? Like, why is
he smiling at her? Yeah,
it seems like a disconnect. But these kind of moments are what make prequels worthwhile. It made me think of the Breaking Bad universe. They spend all the time in the meth lab, and then they do something in the prequel where they end up burying main characters under the lab. And so you look at the Breaking Bad a whole different way when you know there are characters that you've come to love resting in peace underneath this main set. So it'd be like if you found out they buried Scotty in a Jeffries tube somewhere in Voyager, and like it's like when you rewatch that series, it'd be totally different. So sometimes prequels can be limiting, but I think there's a lot they can really do that will make you think differently about other Star Trek, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do
put
there.
Bits of the Enterprise in the Enterprise, so you can Enterprise your Enterprise so you could get some heronium.
They do that in episode
They
7.
do indeed, yeah. That's what
They do indeed.
Episode
one's good. It's really solid, actually.
It's solid.
I'm happy
I'll give it an 8. I'll up my 7 to an 8 for this. I'm a lot more positive now, especially with retrospect to Under the Cloak of War as well. But also, did you want to give your rating now, or did you want to wait a bit till later?
How many Vamonos is out of 10?
Vamonos.
I'm trying to think of what I didn't like about it. That's actually kind of limited. I'm going to give it an 8.6 Vamonos out of 10. I thought it was a very strong starter. I love the hybridization, like I said, of the storytelling. There's a couple other points I want to cover before we move on, so let me hit those first.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the plan of Spock stealing the ship. There was zero hesitation there, and I feel like that was a little bit unearned. I would have loved... just give me 5 minutes of Spock's crisis of conscience, and then one of the cast, Uhura, whatever, come to him and say, "She's one of us. You know, we have to do this. This is important." And then he agrees, and they go on. It just feels weird for him to be the one to lead the charge of, all right, let's ignore the admiral and break the rules and go do it. So it didn't irk me that bad. I just thought it was a little.
What's the opposite of precedent? Subsident? No. Like he has.
Well, you're setting precedent, I guess.
I want to say that he has precedent for it because he, without hesitation, steals the Enterprise to go to Talos 4 in the menagerie.
For
So
Pike,
like,
yeah.
you see what I'm saying? He goes in the future. He does it. So like him stealing the Enterprise just on a whim is not out of character. But I do get what you mean. Yeah, it could have done a little bit, maybe establishing that.
It's one of those things where it's like because we set up that Lon has to be the one who goes off to deal with the whole Oriana plot thread. It's like, okay. So Pike, we know for a fact that Spock would steal the Enterprise for a beloved crew member, except that you're coming right off the end of episode 10, which establishes that Pike and Spock's relationship is incredibly special and deep, and like fucking they are in there, right? They're on first name basis, which is not a thing to be between a captain and his first officer. Well, no, his first officer, his second officer, I believe, is his actual rank. And then you kind of go, but he also, Spock also feels this way toward Lon, and it's like. I'm sure that they're...
Why?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like I can't think of any like standout moments that Spock and Lon have in season 1 that would kind of justify it. It's like, yeah, they bickered a little bit, and like they were those 2 senior officers in episode 2. But if I think of like Lon's relationships in season 1, I think of Una and I think of Uhura more than I think of anything else. So it's like it's a bit of a ask for me to. In the moment you're like, yeah, sure, Spock would do this for a friend, but then it's like, yeah, but this is just a friend, really. Like it's not. Pike, who we know he would do this for, and you don't question it in a second. Like if it was Pike who was in that situation, who would send that message, you'd be like, no, fuck it, I'm stealing it right now. You can all get off the ship if I'll fucking do it solo. But like Lon, you're like, okay, I guess maybe he'd do that.
That's why they could just throw in some dialogue. Someone comes to him, talks to him, and it's like, you're the captain, you can't abandon your crew. And then at the end, he finds the same person who convinced him and said, you were right, I've learned a lesson or something. And then that sets up why he would do it in the future. But that's kind of
you could even like play up the conflict between the human and Vulcan side by like going, an emotional appeal to, oh, we've got to help Lon, doesn't work, but going off the angle of, but what if the angle of this Klingon threat thing is actually going to pay off? And he's like, I'm not going for Lon, but I have to investigate this threat, even though the Admiral thinks it's nothing. Like, that would have been an interesting conflict to set up, because a lot of season 2 is about him, deciding which of his sides he wants to give into more. But they didn't really go into that. So, yeah, that was a bit of a missed opportunity. But I still think this is a pretty strong opener.
I did like April at the end there, and he's just like, yeah, your hangover's your crime for stealing the flagship. Like, it's very lenient, but I liked it. And nonetheless, like...
Yeah, you could tell his heart wasn't in it.
You stopped a false... Yeah, you stopped the false flag operation. You literally stopped the war. You can't really slap him on the wrist that hard, can you?
April's probably stolen the
it's like in
a couple of
fucking
times
Voyage
himself.
Home. Well, yeah, exactly. Like it's like in Voyage Home. It's like due to extraordinary circumstances, all but one of the charges against you have been dropped.
How weird.
So the Lon drinking scene was great.
Amazing.
There's nothing quite so adorable.
I love that Klingon. It's just like
Klingon's going. It's like it's so good. Just the way they are consternated is hilarious. The Spock drinking scene is even better. That is everything in this episode. Yeah. He looks like a fucking teenager having his first drink. He's got this like look on his face. Well, he's in his 20s, right? In human years.
Yeah, he's in his 20s. He's young.
Yeah, he's very young here. So, And more Klingon humor where they Mbenga and Chapel capture this one Klingon. They're like, tell us what you know. He's like, I would never. And then he threatens him, and immediately he's like, okay, here's what the deal is.
Well, guess what? Especially in context of episode 8, you're like, yeah, no, guess what? Babs looks at you like that, you fucking tell him what you want to know. He will kill you.
Otto's like, here's the key to my house.
Shy, we're going for about 4 more hours, so you take your time and jump in.
Enjoy the banter.
We'll lull
Enjoy
you to
the banter.
sleep.
I'm happy doing what we're doing. Yeah,
we may even have
he is in our demographic of ones we send to sleep. It's true.
That's right. Yeah, take a little nap, come back. We'll still be going in a couple hours.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
So the one big last thing, which I think you talked about in the episode review, which I sadly missed, so we're doing the whole thing now. The Super Saiyan potion. The first time I saw it, I thought, why don't they make it a disguise potion instead? You know, forehead ridges and everything, and they have to bluff their way out. They're both medical officers. That makes more sense. And so that's one of the reasons why the episode 8-1 flip would have worked for me, is then you get, okay, they have all this combat experiences. They hate what they saw of Klingons and their brutality. Now that makes more sense that they're fighting. So, you know, it was a little weird to have that much combat from those two at this point in the season.
Yeah. Definitely one of those ones that gets improved on a rewatch, which not always a bad thing. Just as a rewatch. Oh no, I have to rewatch episodes of Star Trek. How awful!
So a strong start to the season, I would say.
Well,
I definitely say so. I don't think it's quite as strong as season 1's. Like season 1's is so fucking good, but like that's a mission statement for the entire show. This is like a don't worry, we still got your back. You know, steady hand on the tiller type thing.
Yeah, that we've combined put that at an 8.2. So you know we've got that's a solid opener. I mean, to be fair, there aren't. I'm just looking down the list. There's not many episodes here we rate less than an 8, but there's a couple. But
don't worry, Otto will fix that.
Coming in with a 3.3.
Dude, I'm lowering one rating and I'm raising one rating in this review. So we'll get there.
Okay. Give with one hand, take with the other. All right, episode 2.
Episode 2. Ad astra per aspera. Commander Una faces court-martial along with possible imprisonment and dishonorable dismissal from Starfleet, and her defense is in the hand of a lawyer who's also a childhood friend with whom she had a terrible falling out. This was the courtroom episode of Strange New Worlds, going along such here he is. Going such luminaries.
So I have to jump in on this favorite episode.
Yeah. Here he is.
Couldn't
resist.
It's an 8. Yeah.
What was actually Shine? We never got your rating for Broken Circle.
Is that the premiere?
The premiere?
Yeah, that we just discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's an 8. Like everything you guys were saying. This is why I was just enjoying listening to you guys. But I thought I'd come into the second half of the hour to slow things down a bit. But
so 4 minutes before we went live, Idol's like, hey, can you find like a prop cigar for this joke? I want to do. I'm like, dude, we're live in 4 minutes. What do you think? I'm shy porn? Like, I don't have props sitting around all over the place.
You didn't just roll a cigar? You didn't like just make a Havana for yourself? Come on, Otto. You got some leaves later on.
Maybe.
Cool. Improvise, my good man.
So yes, Ad astra per aspera. Go on, Stars.
I feel like this is actually another episode that gets better with the rewatch because of the context given to us by those old scientists. Like, because obviously, I think this episode in its own actual entirety is an amazing update on Measure of a Man. I think it's Measure of a Man is a science fiction trial. This is let's talk about immigrant and refugee experience. Let's talk about the actual law. Let's get. We can't go full lawyer because we did. I think I knocked it a little bit for the fact that you don't get anyone shouting and screaming at the witnesses. But this is a bit more realistic in terms of like what would it actually look like if you had to go to the Federation Supreme Court essentially and plead your case as to why you had to lie about your genetic identity. And I think in terms of like it's a bit more. I don't want to say that it's more mature than Measure of a Man, because Measure of a Man is very, very adult in terms of how it like treats things. But it's just, I feel like Ad Astra just goes more into depth in terms of like, let's talk about actual laws and rulings and like, setting things up and getting actual witness testimonies. Whereas Measure of a Man is a bit more philosophical, I suppose, would be my kind of distinction between those two. But yeah, like the context of like Boimler literally having a poster of number 1 inspired by this episode and how much it actually resonates into the future kind of uplifts this episode because it goes, no, this mattered a lot actually, and it's like, you know, whenever you're talking about law and precedent and landmark cases for civil rights, it's like, you know, you have to imagine that at the time they were like, this is like a small victory. This doesn't feel like I did anything worthwhile. And then, like, you know, 100 years down the road, like, no, that was important enough. They put it on the fucking recruitment poster. You know, like, that's a big moment for Una, and I can see why it mattered for her so much.
Did they really like mass produce that recruitment poster? Or is it just one that Boymes had made up?
Absolutely, he made it up. He had to have done. I think so.
He printed that right off of DeviantArt.
Come on, not off Etsy at least. Goddamn.
Yeah.
Damn it, Boymes.
You replicate yourself.
I thought this episode was far too unsubtle for my taste. Like, for direct comparisons to Measure of Man, I love the scene with Guinan and Picard. A whole race of disposable people. That was a great conversation. But then in this episode, she gets on her soapbox. Slavery was legal. Apartheid was legal. People were discriminated against how they loved and gender and color of the skin. And it's like they just put it all out there. It's like, we know where you're going, but let us take the journey to get there. And they kind of slap you in the face with it just a little bit, I found.
It is.
I feel like that was more of a character choice than anything else. I feel like that was literally the lawyer deciding, no, I'm having my soapbox. I am literally never going to get this chance again to be this vocal about what I dislike about your federation. Damn right, I'm not going to be subtle about it. I feel like it's more of a character thing than it is a writing thing.
Yeah. Just to be clear, you thought that having Whoopi Goldberg, the star of The Color Purple, coming into a monologue about creating a
I'm saying
was the more subtle choice.
I'm saying the way the conversation played out, I found it to be more subtle. I mean, I did like it because when they talk about passing as modified, unmodified, trans stuff is not really something that Star Trek has gotten a lot into.
Not massively.
You can point to the bisexual DS9 stuff, right? We all know that, but I mean, this is. I kind of knocked it when I wrote down some notes for being unoriginal, but I will say that it's kind of the first time that they've covered that particular topic head on. So I'll give them points for that.
I think. Sorry, me. The
although minus 5 points for using the term "Mahdi." Like, come on, are you really?
I think I did knock it for that because it's like. This is something that I get from reading a lot of X-Men comics. Is like you really start to judge how good the fictional slurs are. Like, it's like how if I got shouted this in the street, how offended would I be? And then some of them hit right, and some of them you're like, I don't even know what that means, bro.
You don't think it's realistic, but bigots are not creative. You know?
Oh yeah, totally.
That bigots come up with. I think they're being very clever.
Shai, can you turn your mic up a little bit at all? You're a bit faint.
Is it low?
It is a bit low.
AirPods for the first time ever, so
that's right.
I can also adjust later, but
that's cool.
Yeah, this was a I cannot turn it up. I will switch mics in a second.
That's cool.
But
just let me start talking. I'll give you more than enough time.
I stick to my 9. I stick to my 9 out of 10 for this episode because it's a great episode. Merely lacking the Lieutenant Cappy, Colonel Jessup encounter on the stand.
Did you order the code red?
Yeah.
I didn't.
You're damn right.
Yeah.
I think Admiral Pasolk wants to say it. I'm gonna put him on the stand and make him say it.
He should have been like, "You should thank me for the security I bring to the Federation. The logic and security.
The blanket of logic that I provide, and then question the method in which I provide it."
Exactly.
Although they got kind of close because Battelle like 6 times stands up and yells at the top of her lungs, and I'm like, "Whoa, calm down!" Like they know you're there. That was a little bit.
It's not a big room. It's like
well,
the scene from
I
Those
also
Scientists.
appreciated.
So go.
Yeah. So, like, I appreciate what they did with Battelle in this episode, actually, because, like, the way that episode 10 ends, you'd be so easy to, like, hate her forever. And because, like, literally, you are taking one of the main characters, and you are literally persecuting them for their genetic identity and saying, sorry, it's the law. And it's like, they do a really good, like, job of walking that fine line of, I can't help you, but I can stop Pike from making this all about himself, and I can, you know, like, try and guide the hips, and I'm doing my job, and I am visibly under pressure from Pasolk, who's a cunt. Admiral Egg over here.
The Romulan.
She's totally
that, yeah.
I bet you it's coming back in season 3. I bet you. But yeah, it's like they do a really fine job where it's like she turns up later in the season, you're like, you know what, I don't mind seeing you again. I'm glad you're alive in episode 10. May not hold in season 3, but it's like for literally having your character act, and be like the instrument of the Federation's persecution ideology, and then you're like, oh, I liked having her in the musical episode. Like, that's a really fine line to walk, in terms of like likability for a character. It's really easy to break that forever with one ill-considered thing. Like, for some people, like my friend Marie, when we were watching DS9, she really, really, really loved Odo, right? He was like her favorite character. And then all the stuff in season 6 where he's like collaborating with the female founder, even though it makes total sense, she's like, I can't say he's my favorite anymore because, like, oh boy, that was some cancelable shit. It's like, I get it. It's like some things are hard for a character to come back from in terms of likability,
I'll go a step further. This did a lot for her. If we're doing the Measure of Man comparison, she was Riker. She did her job. She had to do it, and maybe she didn't even like doing it. But the scene with her and Pike were one of many great scenes between them in the season. They were both right.
Great chemistry.
Yeah,
and they were both right, and they were both self-righteous about it. Like, not in a bad way. Yeah. Like, she's defending laws that are in place for a reason, and he's defending the spirit of the law, which is also important. So they were both right, and she didn't back down, thank God, because Pike can be a force, and so to bring someone into the show that is his equal and a counterpart, is fantastic.
Yeah, the building of their relationship. I was just say the building of their relationship, Pike and Patel's relationship throughout the season, makes the way the finale happened make more sense, because this is someone that means a lot to him. That is like his counterpart.
To me.
That's right. Exactly. Normally you'd be like, right. Pike would never hesitate like that, but that's jumping ahead. So.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like. She's like the Riker in the Louvois, and it's just she does such a good job of like making him. She's the Erica Hernandez of this, like, but like if Archer wasn't a complete dweeb,
a two-skiller.
No,
fans come on.
But like that's the thing, it's like Erica Hernandez, like when she's presented in the show, is absolutely Archer's equal. She's just as good, just as capable, and just like Patel here, just as much a moral paragon, even if they're not always on the same side. And it's like. It's something that we talk about with admirals a lot in terms of like how prevalent the bad admiral trope is, and it's like how much we appreciate when you get a good admiral like Cornwell or April. And it's like seeing other starship captains who are not our main character not being genocidal maniacs like Ronald Tracy or Benjamin Maxwell, or being incompetent fools. Like, it's nice to see someone who's like,
I get my big long list of admirals. And,
Maxwell was right.
I know, right? He was right, but he was wrong about the way he did it. But it's like it's really important for the fiction of Star Trek that you are able to look at another character in the same role as your main character and go, you could feasibly have your own show because you are competent and charismatic and moral enough that you work as a Star Trek Starfleet captain.
I mean,
it's kind of important.
Melanie Scrofano does have her own show. She is Wyanna Earp, like she's the lead of that show. So she's already.
But I'm saying like, in another Star Trek show.
I get you.
Yeah.
We're really close to no longer uttering the phrase "for a woman" in Star Trek, and it's exciting. And part of the reason is because of roles like this, where it's like, they wouldn't fly in TOS
so well by women.
It wouldn't fly in TOS, but we'll talk about that later. The
Thank you, Discovery.
Split I found very interesting. So, it's great.
There's a lot of it. I mean,
I would actually like to get a female perspective on this, but
the big issue I want to bring up on this episode is it adds something that a lot of people don't like, and especially those that are more the Gene Roddenberry purists, is this adds a tinge of bigotry to the Federation. Like, we got this race of people, the Illyrians, who
adds.
Sorry, though.
It's always been there.
Well,
they added that in Star Trek 6. They called that out.
But this seems a bit more directed.
I mean, it was earlier than that. It was a Balance of Terror.
Well, yeah. This seems very directly. This isn't focused at a bad guy or a former bad guy. This is just another race of people living their life in the universe who have, the same kind of moral fiber as the Federation, but they don't like them because of this one flaw or the one thing that has been stigmatized by the Federation's own past with the eugenics wars. It has that little tinge of like the Admiral says at the end, this needs to be discussed in the future, but not right here, right now. And we know they don't, because of the whole thing with Dr. Bashir later on, which presumes that Illyrians never join the Federation because of that, unless something else comes up.
But that's Go ahead.
I was going to say that addresses the problematic ways society often says, like, just wait. We're changing slowly. You just got to let everyone catch up, because it doesn't actually change that. If you just tell people to wait their turn,
no one ever got changed. Why else you politely and waiting? Yeah.
Don't get uppity, Shy. You can join us when we're done talking about episode 3. Don't get uppity.
No. I'm model minority.
Well, it's like the guy that gave a 24-hour filibuster to suppress the civil rights movement. I forget the name of the senator back then. It's like, we're not going to change. So this is why I'm arguing against it, and I'm going to spend time to do this because people can't work like that. And it's like, well, no, someone has to be the instrument of pushing things forwards, and we are and like you say, this episode is unsubtle. This is very on the nose, but I think in this day and age,
need to be dropped.
This day and age, you kind of have to be. I think for the people that are watching Star Trek, like us, lifelong fans who are fairly progressive in our ways of thinking, we are leaned a little more liberally than others, and want people just to live their lives and be happy. But I think there are subsections of the community that kind of do need to be told these things in very loud, large letters, because, like, come on, everyone's right to exist is purified by this law.
Yeah. It's unsubtle, but it's done so well. Like, it's performed so well. I don't care if it's unsubtle, because the execution she's excellent.
See, but I think that's another one. That's the other problem I have with this, is the very flourishing, dramatic, sonorous speaking just gets me by the end of it. Like, it's kind of like they're on a soapbox the whole time, and it's the execution, I think, that I have a problem with a little bit more than the writing.
It's a terrible courtroom episode, because it is.
It's kind of like we're walking through syrup the whole way. It feels like.
Sorry.
Sorry. To circle back around, if I can steal a line from another Trek courtroom episode, eternal vigilance is the price we pay, Mr. Worf. Yeah, there's always going to be bigots, and we want Starfleet to be utopia, but it will never be the perfect utopia. And so pushing back against the bigots is going to be centuries, millennia's long battle. And so, yeah, I definitely am on board for one of these episodes or two in every series, because we'll always need them.
I cannot wait for season 5 of Discovery to turn up. I can't wait for season 5 of Discovery to turn up, and they discover, like, we just blew up the Illyrians. We were just sick of them. Just like, fuck it.
But those damn bodies. You see M'Benga, like, educating Ortegas in this episode. She's like, these Vulcans. Look at Spock and Patel just, like, conspiring. And M'Benga's like, no. They hate each other.
Yeah, no. And it's like the fact that you can have, like, insightful character, like, your discussion. You can have, like, a slap on the wrist for a bit of bigotry, and then, like, one of the funniest lines of the entire season where it's like, I apologize, you had to witness that outburst. Like, in like a 30-second span, like, that's what makes Strange New Worlds work so good. It manages to combine all these things just so seamlessly. And it's just like, I just really appreciate how it's just brevity, but without, like, sacrificing anything. It's like that, like, 30 seconds, but it just tells you everything you need to know about, like, so many of these little characters. Like, little character moments like that are so essential.
Yeah, just like the scene in Pike's ready room that I love, and those old scientists, I go from laughing to literally crying in 1 minute. Yeah. And so that's why certain episodes like Charades and Spock Amok, for me, were clunkers, because they came out of the box and said, all right, we're going to be funny in this episode. But when they don't do that, they can be funny at the drop of a hat. And when you mix it in with just a regular episode, that's personally where I prefer it, because you can have me rolling, and you can...
Sorry.
What is it?
What the... From the Star Charades.
Yeah, well, hey, we'll get to that, but I just prefer it when they mix it in a little more, like they do here and like they do in 7.
Can we talk about the one thing we haven't spoken about this episode is La'an, because La'an here is facing a trial of two fronts here. One is her own past history with this literally direct conflict with her, augmented history of her potentially inheriting some of that little Augie herself, and also with her friendship with Una and her little conflict she had. She's like, did I leak it? Did I do this? And that was nice. Christina Chong's showing vulnerability and the kind of evolution of La'an's character through this, from being very straight-laced in season season 1 to now, especially, which we'll get over on the next episode, her relationship with Kirk and things like that, showing a little bit more vulnerability and some excellent acting on my part, in my opinion, from the part of Christina Chong, sort of being able to sit there straight-faced and just show that she is shitting herself.
This is definitely Christina Chong's season, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a scene early on with her and Uhura, which I think does a great service to Uhura, where she essentially orders her to, break the rules, and Uhura stands up for herself. She's still a cadet at this point. Oh, no, I'm sorry, just a new ensign at this point, and she stands up for herself to her boss and says, "No, I'm not going to do it because it's wrong."
Her mentor as well.
And so, there's another Few Good Men poll where it's like, how many times have we just said following orders? She stands up and she does the right thing, and that's a great little moment for someone who could have been quaking on her boots, and we would have bought that, because Lon can't be intimidating.
Yeah. But, that scene in Una's quarters between Yetidi Badagi and Christina Chong, I'm going to keep bringing it up in relation to this episode because it is just a civil rights thing. And I've read a lot of X-Men comics in my time and watched a lot of X-Men media, like cartoons and movies. And it's I kind of wish any of them had the amount of, pathos and talking about internalized self-hatred and, the affirmation that can come from just being so much yourself. I feel like a lot of X-Men media doesn't, hit the mark nearly as well as that one scene. And it's Lon comes out of it saying, "Why do I feel like I just got hit by a shuttle?" Because guess what? You just got confronted with the idea that maybe you aren't a monster by heritage. Maybe you are just yourself. And it's that's massively important leading into episode 3. But I imagine, Otto, do you have any more notes you want to say about episode 2?
Yeah, at the end when they're in the transporter room and they start clapping, that is big landing the plane clapping energy. I did not like that. I thought that was really cheesy, but it fits actually with the episode, because I thought the whole episode is a little bit indulgent. Just a little bit.
Yeah. Can I address now a complaint I have with the season in regards to Una? Because Rebecca Romaine, excellent, brilliant, love the character. This was all we got. It was such a shame, and especially when we get into hegemony. Well, when we come to hegemony, we get a little bit more, and we get a little bit more in Subspace Rhapsody. But I need a bit more of. I need more. I don't know, more character establishment.
You want a very specific thing. You want an episode where she is in command of the Enterprise, and that is me. You want that. You want. Guess what? All these other character moments still happen, regardless of what you actually want.
All right, I retract.
I would say she got. I would say she got more than.
I agree.
I would say she got more than Ortegas and Mbenga, all things
Ortega's
considered.
got shafted this season again, which is a bit of a shame. But...
Well, I still think that's due to Melissa Navia just wanting to take it a little bit on the backseat. If we get to season 3 and we still haven't gotten any big movement in Ortegas' character arc, then I will start to agree that she's being underserved. But I'm still happy to wait and see on that one, because especially if these were filmed back to back with season 1 and she was dealing with the loss of her partner, you don't want to put too much pressure on her, because she's still a really good performer. You just don't want to push her too hard. I have one question to ask Shai. I don't know, were you on the review for episode 2? Yeah. The way that Una and Neera held hands on the transporter pad, was I the only one who kind of...
I think there was history there.
A little bit. Yeah, I think.
It could have been romantic, but I'm always a big proponent of, sometimes platonic love, between Frodo and Samwise, is a thing, and that could be a beautiful thing. You don't always have to ship every single, especially in Star Trek. You don't have to ship every single glance that happens in Star Trek. But yeah, they could have thrown down at some point.
Sorry, that was me.
There was a point earlier, some dialogue earlier in the episode where Una's on the stand. She basically apologizes for leaving them behind, and I felt like that was very definitely pointed at her. So it did feel platonic to me, but it felt more like an apology / thank you kind of thing.
I can say, by the way, it's one of those things,
But hey, some of the best stuff is when they leave it ambiguous. So
well, I think it's one of those things where it's a little touch where it's if you decide to take a queer reading of it, it only makes the episode better, because it leaves civil rights arguments also absolutely just apply to homosexual civil rights just as much as they do to any other civil rights case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quit checking your phone.
Sorry, I got a quick message from a friend.
I thought this was a hybrid event.
What were our ratings for episode 2? What were our ratings?
Our ratings
the faction shuttles?
We did, yeah, exactly. No,
There's no shuttles.
You guys rated this out of Pike's incredible horticultural menageries. If you remember, he had that amazing herb garden in his quarters.
That's right.
Which is incredible.
The arrow garden, yeah.
I gave it a 9.2. Oh my god, stop doing that. I just turned you off. Why are you doing that? Anyway, I gave it a 9.2. I might sit it there. I might drop it to a 9. Just to go my anti-decimal places thing. I don't know.
Stick to your guns,
I'll stick to
coward.
my guns. Yeah, 9.2. I'll stick with 9.2. Stars you gave it a 9.5. Auto gave it a 7. Big was on that one. Big gave it a 9, and Shah, you also gave it a 9 for an 8.7 total. Any revisions, gentlemen?
Man, we need Big on more often. I love Big.
We do. He's busy
One
with
more
kids.
quick hit. At the beginning, Pike's big ass Bane mask I found hilarious, and I got kind of a Black Mirror liminal space kind of aesthetic from this episode, especially on the Illyrian homeworld. Was that just me?
Because I think it is intentionally meant to be such an alien space because, like, you so often in Star Trek don't have to deal with that. Like, the amount of times you'll go to an alien planet and it's just, oh, well, it just so happens to have Earth gravity and Earth breathing conditions. Like,
you mean the Midwest 1960s ringing the bell at the barbershop?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Hodgkin's law of planetary development. Yeah, totally. But I feel like that kind of contributes because Star Trek doesn't address atmospheric differences so often. The fact that they did in this one episode to make a point kind of like shines a light on it, makes it seem weird. I feel like is what they were going for there.
Yeah, the world building touches on this show are fantastic. Just like the plants in their own little atmosphere pods.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah.
I think Idol pointed out the floating chair in her office. I hadn't even noticed. It's just great.
No reason for that. No reason for a floating chair, just because they can.
Yeah, because it's the future.
And Pike going to the mat for someone he cares about was awesome. Like he's breaths away from death, playing chicken with him, and he doesn't give a single care, and it's fantastic. I think everyone,
Captain America,
everyone, including Pasolk, who we're meant to hate, comes out looking better from this episode. I would say.
I do like that Pike, though, after all the breathing stuff he did, and then just walks back. I like to think he walks back into reception and goes, "Oh shit, yeah, I need that. Can I have another one, please?" Or he just beams up. Like,
no, you just open up the bag and he goes. And it refills.
Oh yeah, that's true. You open the valve. So it takes 2 hours to refill. So what you been doing lately? Yeah.
Got any Candy Crush? Can I play some Candy Crush?
You like Minecraft?
You got some Roblox?
Okay, let's move on to our next episode. Tomorrow, La'an travels back in time to 21st century Earth to prevent an attack which will alter humanity's future history and bring her face to face with her own contentious legacy. Can I tell you the amount of times I've seen online of people asking, is that a real bridge in Toronto? With people going like, no, this is the near future. Can you imagine?
They had to rebuild it so many times to blow it up. You wouldn't believe
it keeps on getting blown up. Yeah.
Like, why build
it? It's really unfortunate, really. You'd think they would build it in a different place, but
Okay, that's fixed points in time for you. Which one? Like, there's 2 parts to this, really. Well, it's 3 technically. One.
There's the first 40 minutes, and then there's the last 10.
Yeah,
really,
kind of. Yeah. There's La'an. The three subjects I think we will cover is La'an, Kirk, and Khan, which are the kind of the 3 biggies. But should we just start with the heroine of the moment, La'an's progress in this episode, because this is definitely her episode. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, her showing a little more vulnerability, a little more emotion, and breaking those barriers we've known her to set up due to her upbringing and her contentious nature of her genetic disposition.
Well, I feel like it's interesting because, La'an is by nature a very orderly and structured, being, kind of like Worf in TNG. Like they are to a degree naturally like that. Well, yes. Well, apart from in Picard season 3, then Worf will kill everything. Okay. So, by nature, they are to a degree like this. I imagine that even if Worf had been brought up on the Klingon homeworld or whatever, he would still be very much a little bit of a stick of the mud. He'd very much be, I am a man of honor and believe it. and Lan's very much, but they are also products of their upbringing, where like both of them lived in places that were not necessarily that welcoming toward them because of their heritages, because they were different, some of them visibly so. And then they had to, especially in Worf's case, he had to, practice intense self-control. Lan had to deal with probably all kinds of racism and prejudice, and then also her own actual trauma. And it causes them to close in on themselves and exacerbate their natural tendencies. And I really appreciated the little writing tweak of what happens when a character who has lived their entire life with a chip on their shoulder suddenly encounters a character from another universe who literally can't even see the chip on their shoulder. Yeah, and gets to see you as naturally as you are. It's like, I'm a bit of a sucker for a writing flourish like that, and it's like, normally I'd be like, Lan and Kirk, that's not a pairing that makes any sense to me. Like, why is it you just doing this for the irony of a Khan descendant and Kirk doing it, whatever. But no, it's like it's done for a very naturalistic reason. Like, it has to be someone from an alternate universe to justify the connection and the emotional fallout. And I appreciate it they did the legwork for that. And now you talk.
It works, like you say, for the story, but the actual justification in universe technobabble, which I love scooping like so many ladles of gravy on my mashed potatoes, was completely lacking, I felt. Some guy shows up, hands her a thing, Kirk grabs her, and then they teleport to the past, and that's it. And it's I just like in my science fiction a little bit more of that. And I don't know.
I feel like with Strange New Worlds, they've been trying to move away from the Technobabble a little bit.
Which is a shame, because it's called Star Trek, and it's Technobabble, and it's sci-fi.
You're not wrong.
You shouldn't be ashamed of
Technobabble. No, totally not. But it's like that they've gone to a lot of effort this season to try and make it a bit more grounded with, the stuff with the divers watches working as a Geiger counter and all the physics stuff they were doing in episode 10. Like, they were making more of an effort to make it a bit more grounded in places than maybe the older shows would have been, where you had stuff like warp particles.
It's also hard with like time travel, especially. The more you explain it, the more dated it becomes, or the more
Bro, you can make up anything with time travel, and no one can refute you because no one understands how it works.
But that's also the anti-side of it as well. It's just like we know you don't know what you're talking about. You're just making up bollocks. Let's just have a machine that just goes, we're going back in time now, 88 miles an hour. Let's go.
I mean, one of the reasons I gave credence to the musical episode 9 was because they knew it was going to get pushed back, and so they put in a lot of legwork with a ton of technobabble, and this is how the zipper works and dimensions and this and that, and so that eased the blow for old school crusty Trek purists like myself. So I did think that was missing, but yeah, to pull back on the overall point, Lan was by far the highlight of this episode. Spoiler alert: when we do Actor of the Season, Christina Chong is mine. Her holy trinity is vulnerability, intimidation, and humor. And whenever they ask her to do any of those, which is very frequently, she nails it every single time.
Oh, dude, I was rewatching an episode last night, and like, I love grapplers. It gets me every fucking time. It's the complete deadpan. It's incredible. Okay, like the vulnerability, like you say, she does it so well, and it's like the only reason you buy it because she is so buttoned up so much. But the way she just breaks down at the end of the episode, like, I defy anyone not to feel bad for her.
Now,
Shai, as someone who's donned the Khan costume more than all of us combined, what was your take specifically on the Khan through line?
I wasn't a huge fan of the eugenics wars retcon, but like Idol taking issue with how Una has been in this season, it's mainly because it wasn't done the way I would have done it. Like, I like the idea of the eugenics wars happening still in the 90s as a shadow war. Yeah. It works perfectly. The Soviet Union fell. There's all these oligarchic like moves in Asia. They could have just completely made it like but they decided to change it, and that's fine. It's canon now. It is what it is. God forbid.
But at least they fixed the problem, and it's while I love the tack that they went for in the books, I feel like that'd be a real hard one to get across in a TV show. Like, I feel like that plays a lot better in a different medium, whereas like in TV you kind of have to just explain it in bullet points, really.
Yeah,
God forbid we do a series about eugenics.
God forbid we let Nicholas Meyer just do his eugenics war series that he's been working on. The guy who saved Star Trek in the 80s. But whatever. What does he know?
Hopefully, he'll get his chance in podcast form. You know.
Yeah, that's fine. But there's nothing you can't rewrite.
You can write fanfiction all day, Shai.
That Khan, that Khan boy. Maybe that was a clone of Khan. You never know.
Yeah, there could be anything.
You never know.
It's nice they touched upon it, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, the episodes. It's really well done. Christina Chong's excellent. Their rapport, Paul Wesley and her rapport chemistry is excellent in that episode. The whole thing's worth it for the. This looks like New York. It's Toronto joke. like that's such inside baseball comedy. Because they shoot so many shows in Canada that are supposed to be set in New York and LA because of cost. So that joke alone was right.
Somewhere in the background, you can see Nifty Mittens just walking across the street.
Yeah, very much. For me, the chess stuff was fucking hilarious. Like that alone kind of justified the price of entry for me. Just that old 2D stuff, basically just idiots chess. I love that because it's a little bit of a reference to the TNG. Let's teach 9-year-olds calculus. People are just that much smarter in the future. But also, guess what? Make Kirk kind of a genius. It makes sense why Spock is into him now.
It's kind of true. I was looking at my father's old report card from 1960 whatever, and they grade them in breathing and standing up and taking a drink of water, and those are the subjects that they have back then, and kids really are doing calculus in freshman middle school time.
Which kind of begs a question. It begs a question.
I'm exaggerating. I'm saying it's a lot more simple stuff back then. They grade them in effort and stuff like that in high school, and it's
you're breathing through
they
one
really
nostril.
are.
Work harder.
Kids these days do get a lot more on their plate a lot earlier. That is true.
John, you were saying?
I was saying it begs the question. Was the result of the eugenics wars that humanity actually did get upgraded? Just did it get seep into the gene pool enough? They're actually smarter in the future because of the eugenics wars.
Don't drink the fluoride.
Guess what? That's a plot for Prodigy to do. It's they have to confront the anti-eugenics laws, and suddenly it turns out everyone on Earth has been secretly an augment, or is partly
I think it's genies out of the bottle, right? I think it just got in there. The way everyone in Asia is related to Genghis Khan. I think that's just everyone in the world is related to Khan, Nudie. That's right.
Just plowing, just reaping.
Man, what a guy.
Sowing.
Well, except not. We're getting slightly.
I thought a lot of the early.
He did make the trains run on time.
What, Genghis Khan?
Terrible.
No.
Three out of the four Trek Time hosts are in fact related to Genghis Khan.
You decide.
It's not what you think.
My baby's trains run on time 200 years before you were born.
I thought the Kirk
These train conductors swore to live and die at my command long before you were born.
You've lost a
I thought the Kirk characterization. All right, shut the fuck up. I thought the Kirk characterization early on, especially in the first half, was quite, dude. We got 10 episodes plus all the character stuff, and in about 15 minutes, you're gonna go. I'm so tie. I want to go to bed now. Well, then quit making jokes and let's talk about Star Trek. Where was I?
You thought the Kirk characterization in the first half.
The trains are running on time.
No, now he's in.
Shut up, you moron. I thought it was poor characterization. Kirk can be casual, but he's not flippant and cavalier all that often, which I thought Paul Wesley's Kirk very much was. They had a problem to solve, and he didn't give two shits about it until later on. And I just thought it was not fair to Kirk. He doesn't need to be a serious character, but he needs to take the situation seriously.
Do you feel that way about Lieutenant Kirk? Because, my argument here is that, okay, it's an alternate universe Kirk. The same at the end of Equality of Mercy, he's in that. But do you feel that way about when we finally see Lieutenant Kirk in the 2-episode season?
No.
Season? Okay,
no,
so
the
justification is that this is an alternate universe Kirk. He is from a different background where Earth was a bit more
This is Kirk who literally was born on the USS Iowa, so
yeah. I'm from
space. I think you and I agree, Otto, that Wesley doesn't really hit the Kirkness until Subspace Rhapsody. Strangely, but
I think. We'll get to Lost in Translation. We'll talk about Kirk.
Luckily, they killed him off, so who cares?
Stop it.
They did, yeah. Jim, yeah, with Marn's very emotionless.
Quick...
Jim.
A quick poll for you three. How many music montages are too many in Star Trek?
Any more than one.
2.
Any more than one is too
I
many.
allow 1 because depending on the context, like stuff like I don't know. I guess I'd count Star Trek Beyond as having kind of a music montage with the whole sabotage thing. It kind of counts.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could think of 1 or 2 more instances. Oh, you know what? Guess what? Fucking, you're all wrong. You're allowed at least 1 because It's Only a Paper Moon did 1 and it was fucking amazing.
Well,
it was good.
Yeah, the 1. You're allowed 1. One music
so you're
montage.
allowed at least 1. But yeah, that's why 2 is too many, and especially if your music choices are off base.
Wait, are you saying in an episode or in the entire franchise?
An episode.
In an episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're allowed 1. 2 is pushing it. I think that Star Trek should only have 1 music montage every episode.
Yeah. I did like the joke, the running joke they do with Kirk not being able to drive at the start, and then all of a sudden he can drive. Like he just does the whole piece of the action thing. Like I like that. That's the
Captain. As a commander of starships, I think very highly of you, but as a driver of automobiles, that bad. Like the piece of the action reference is never out of place. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, the implications. I wasn't as keen on the antagonist, whose name's Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
She was.
That's up. Yeah, well, she is. Yeah.
It wasn't great. It wasn't a great setup, and it was all of a sudden like. Then she did the Captain Angel thing from last season. She was like all innocent and like quirky character, and all of a sudden, I am the villain now, and I am planning to kill Khan and undo your history, for I am a temporal Romulan agent. Twirling the moustache. That's what I'm doing.
Is that what that was? This is money.
This is money. This is also this is me.
This is twirling the mustache.
Yes. I don't have long moustaches. I don't know how you handle them. But yeah, no, she ended up being very, very hammy, and that kind of killed it a little bit. And also, is she superhuman? Like, are Romulans also as strong as Vulcans?
They've gone back and forth on that a lot.
Yeah,
to be fair, they've gone back.
Yeah,
and forth.
they're usually
until
usually human equals. I think.
That's what I thought.
Strength, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Troy's taken
also
a few out.
That scene where so Kirk steals a $80,000 car. I don't know what it would cost in Canadian dollars. He steals an expensive sports car, drives it recklessly, doing like fucking U-turn donuts in the middle of downtown Toronto. Cops pull him over, and some lady pulls out her phone, yells at them, and they go, "We'll let you off with a warning." I'm like, really? I don't think.
He's white.
No, even then. Even then, I don't think that was a little bit like, this is so. Coming off the heels of the second music montage.
Maybe they're trying to do the whole. They're trying to do the whole like, well, these are Canadian cops. They're not as bad as those American cops. We're
I feel like they should have done something where like she creates some kind of massive distraction, or like like something to show up. Maybe something that you could look back on on a rewatch and be like, she was clearly using Romulan tech to do it. Like that.
Bomber Bridge, perhaps.
Well,
there is that.
Yeah, so what do we give this episode, Idle?
Out of we get hang on, where's my thing gone? Out of Carl Noonan's generic brand Transformers, I gave it a 7.5, which I think I'll stick to. I think for all the sum of it, I enjoyed it overall. Like as a piece of television, I sat and watched. Apart from the musical numbers, I enjoyed it. But Stars, you gave it a 7. Otto, you gave it a 3. Our guest at the time, who I can't forget who we had on, I gave it a 5.5.
Was it Cranky?
Might have been Cranky. Probably. It's usually Cranky. If anyone needs to ask who's the guest is, it's usually Cranky. Or it's Nifty. Shy, we haven't got a rating for yourself. What would you give this episode?
I'd go 7. I'd go 7. I like the Carol Kane stuff. I like the fact that she doesn't know any engineering in this century. Because one of the things I like about the Star Trek mythos is that the idea that you can just change professions at some point in your life. Like there's an anti-ageist thing. Like, you know what? I'm gonna do this now. And the fact that she's immortal.
Can
really,
you be ageist as an lanthanite? Like they're just always old.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is one of the episodes I need to update my rating on. This is a 1.5 for me. There were moments where I'm like, if I weren't watching it to talk about it with you guys, I would have just turned it off. This was bad television. I looked up previous scores. I gave Charlie X a 1.8, and I thought, would I really rather watch Charlie X than this? And the answer was yes. Until the last 10 minutes. It was cringeworthy, terrible television. The last 10 was good.
Oh yeah,
and Lon, Christina Chong is fantastic. But two points I want to talk about. Killing Kirk was great. It clears up a lot of niggling threads, and it's an emotional impact. Because, how often can you kill off main characters and have them stay dead? Well, this is a great chance, because he's not really Kirk, but he is. So I think they did that great. And what do you guys think about fourth wall breaking stuff? There's a line from Peli early on where she says, in case this no money utopia socialist thing becomes a fad. And then later on, there's one with Boimler and Mariner where they're like, have you noticed how everyone talks so slowly and quietly here? When they do these fourth wall breaking lines, do you guys like that? Or?
I think for
like
the
it.
Lower Decks episode,
was
fine. Yeah. Lower Decks
Come
episode,
on.
absolutely fine. Like, I don't mind, because that's the stick, isn't it? That's the whole thing. There's the joke. I think.
And also, like, with Peli, you get the excuse of she's literally lived for, like, hundreds of lifetimes. Like, she's seen regimes rise and fall with all kinds of, and probably, like, interstellar ones, not just human ones. Like, we have to imagine she would have lived on her own planet for a while. God knows what that looks like and what that went through. Like, that's completely fine. I feel like it's fine.
We also see.
Guess what? That Khan thought he was just having a weird dream. That's what he thought.
She leaves the gun in the room. That is
Yeah, you may need this later to take over the world. Temporal investigations come back. We see the lady with a weirdly Section 31S tech like zoom in and zoom out again. So I think it's the first time we've seen them in the TOS era. Do we think they're time travelers as well? Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I like time stuff. I like timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah,
Because I always connected. I always think that there's a Doctor Who Star Trek crossover
Nearly
in the
was.
whole
There
Gary
nearly
7
was.
universe. Like,
Nearly had David Tennant going on board the NX-01.
That would have been weird.
That would
That's
be
not the pick I would have chosen for the series to cross over with.
I do find it funny when someone shows up, they're like, I'm from the future, I need you to give me something. And then the people just hand it over, like especially the security chief.
Hey, that's what happened to Berlinghoff.
which is great on TNG, right?
Yeah.
They do it on TNG. They're like, wait a minute, you're just gonna hand this to them? You don't even know who they are.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Show it's always like, maybe you should vet this person before you.
Okay, let's go on to an episode that, ironically, I had forgotten about until I looked through the list to do the season review. Among the Lotus Eaters, returning to a planet that dredges up tragic memories, Captain Pike and his landing party find themselves forgetting everything, including their own identities, as he confronts a ghost from his past. This was the prequel to the prequel, the stuff that sets up what happened in the cage, which I quite liked that part of it. But what did we think about the episode itself? On looking back at it,
I like it. It's a pretty decent TOS Voyager throwback, I find.
Yeah.
This felt like the first one of the season, which was closest to your good old classic Berman era bottle episode Trek.
Yeah.
So people who were looking forward to Strange New Worlds for that, this was kind of your first crack at the bat.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I particularly like how savage they make Pike when he regresses to his private
That's
self.
Jeffrey Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. He becomes Jeffrey Hunter Pike. He's not noble. He's not civilized. He's not the best of the Federation that we're going to leave out of the Klingon War to preserve the species. He's a bad human.
So let me ask you then,
He's
because
just human in the end.
at the end, so yeah, he's beating the shit out of what's this ensign's name?
Zach.
I wrote it down
Zach
somewhere.
McGuire, I
Zach.
believe his name is.
So he's beating the shit out of Zach, and then his memories come back, and like 15 seconds later, he's like, "I'm sorry, I left you behind, and I mourned for you, and this and that." And on one hand, it strikes you as kind of disingenuous because you see it so close to one another, but on the other hand, it's like it opens this whole box of discussion where it's like, well, how genuine is he? How much of that is learned empathy? How many of us would react just like him if we had lost our upbringing, essentially? So I found that really interesting at the end, and I don't have a firm stance on it, but I just thought it was an interesting thought exercise.
Well, that's why it kind of has to be a Pike-focused episode, because he has been, exemplified as, the best of the best, and he's, the perfect, peak sci-fi captain thing. And it's like, you kind of have to have it be him. It can't really be any other character. I don't know. It's one of those things where the ambiguity is a nice touch, but learned empathy is a thing. I don't feel like empathy is any less genuine just because it's learned. Like, I feel like every kid has that moment on the playground where you punch someone or you take something from someone and sometimes to slap you on the wrist and say, hey, don't do that. You wouldn't like that if that happened to you. And you go, no, you're right. I wouldn't like that if it happened to me. Like, I don't feel like that makes it any less genuine. I feel like you kind of have to make your peace with the fact that humans are inherently a childlike savage race, as Q would put it. But it's what you do as a member of that race to progress and grow that is a mark of you as a human, and that's why it kind of. But it is an interesting point, and it is. Yeah, I like that they let him go far enough to draw blood. Like, I feel like if they hadn't let him draw blood and, Zach was like, fine, but maybe a little bit bruised, I'm like, you're kind of like, but the fact that they let him draw blood is like, yeah, you let him go pretty far.
Yeah, learned empathy is just as valid, if not more valid, than some sort of weird Dickensian, like, innate nobility. Like, oh, that child, look, with his noble eyes shining forth. Yeah, it's... the Vulcan.
Can I have some phaser rifles?
The Vulcans, the whole Vulcan culture is like learned nobility, right? They have to follow the learnings of Surak to pull themselves out of their barbaric, warlike state. So, it's a plus to him. The fact that he was able to, get past his Jeffrey Hunter stage.
A point in its favor, I also thought the A story here, the stuff on the planet, felt very, I don't know what the right word is, genuine. It really sucked me in. The settings, the character, the dialogue, especially the first, I don't know, 3/4 of it, I really loved. Like, I'm just sitting here watching it, and I didn't want to jot down notes. I just wanted to like, believe what I was watching, and it really sold me on it. I liked that.
So this is one of those things I know Idle disagreed on, because I think that Idle, you mentioned in the review that you didn't like how empty the planet felt, and I felt like that was kind of on purpose, because how full of life can a planet where you don't remember anything from day to day can feel? There's no chance of a society really to grow.
They had...
But...
Go on.
You go.
No, please. Finish your sentence.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that part of the reason why I specifically felt this was almost Voyager-like was because... the guy who plays Luke, like the guy who helps them out and is like you kind of act as the representative for the society. I felt like they did a really good job picking a very Voyager style character actor who just was good at the. I don't know. There's just something about him that just felt like very Voyager.
He'll come back as a Cardassian in 2 seasons' time.
I'm down for it.
He'll be
Guess what? Give me Cardassian as Stranger Worlds. I'd love that.
I think he's like he's the exact same
got.
age as Pike, but he's had such a shit life on the planet that he looks like he's 20 years older. Pike, by the way, Pike kept outing himself. Pike's like, I have these porcelain soft hands. Look how clean they are. I couldn't possibly be doing any work on this planet. That was hilarious.
Look at my crafted hair.
Yeah,
I clearly have been manicured.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's just like I feel like they did a really good job of picking. Because if you're going to have to pick one actor to be your representative of the species, they have to be fucking good. They have to be able to epitomize the empathy. You have to make sure that you shore up the world building so that it feels like this is a world that could potentially exist. It's like, because the instant you start saying, okay, so this is a world where everyone forgets all their memories and they only remember. What is it? I think Chapel says implicit stuff, like the stuff you've done 1,000 times.
I remember as well, because they've got the metal from the helmets. So Spock is the
and they do the correct little bits of accounting, as it were, for okay, but why not this? That's why that. So there's no little plot holes of well, wait, this society just doesn't make any sense, because that could really hurt a very classic sci-fi story like this if there's a massive gaping hole of the society literally can't exist like this. But they close up all the loops. I feel like the stuff on the ship wasn't quite as strong, mostly because Ortega's just kind of powers through it, and it's an okay moment, but I feel like it could have been better.
Fly the ship. Yeah, I want to kind of go back to what you said about the planet. The
ship.
Yeah, the reason I didn't like the whole, I thought it felt for a culture that has, slavery and a whole system of sending them out to the farms to forget and then just to keep working, and then you have this huge imperial castle. It felt like they had 3 people doing all of it. There are ways of getting, making a world feeling lived in with only a limited number of guest actors, and I feel like it didn't quite hit the mark on this kind of thing. And it's one of those ones where you see, they've got the big what is it, the big green screen thing, the big view screen, not green screen, the volume sitting in the background. It's one of those moments I can see.
So would you prefer a bit more a wide group shot, sort of more people? Or...
A little bit just to establish that this is not just 3 guys in a castle, which is kind of what it felt like. It's a little bit.
They probably could have done some CGI crane shot where you see 5 distinct little work camps or something, then they zoom in on Pike.
Something like that, yeah. A sacrifice a shot of the Enterprise.
I'm envisioning the Monty Python shots of people people just like hitting puddles of water as they're riding through the ring, like to give you.
So you get a shot of Zach's castle and fucking Lance like, it's only a model.
Yeah. It's just CGI.
On the topic of Luke, spelled Luq, by the way, because
course,
we're in the future and we're in space.
He's alien, yeah, totally.
I absolutely loved the scene with Pike, where Pike's like, we're going to storm the castle. And Luke's like, that's a terrible idea. Read my totem. And then Pike says, no, we're really going to storm the castle. And then Luke's like, okay, let's do it. And
Your
Pike's like, wait,
emotions have swayed me. Yeah,
why did you just change your mind?
Yeah.
And it's on par with that radical empathy stuff from season 1, where it's like, okay, this is a concept that doesn't come up for us every day, but for the alien culture, that guides them and that works for them. And that helped them feel, maybe they don't have 50 guys in the background, but that little twist made me feel like, okay, they're not just humans, even though they all, again, that's something I don't like about the season, they all look exactly like humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember pointing that out in the review. I was like, because in that scene, you're like, wait, why would you go to help them? There's literally nothing involved in this. You're only inviting trouble for yourself. And then they neatly tie it up with that little bit of an emotional flip that makes sense in the context of their culture. And it's just a nice little bit of sleight of hand of writing of like, okay, yeah, no, that makes emotional sense to me.
Spock handing out those memory pads where he just wrote, Spock is awesome, he is your friend, and handed them out to everyone.
Kirk is a jerk.
Yes, that was great. Stars, I in the original review, you said you weren't a fan of Anson's acting in this one. I thought early on, especially, he sold the disorientation and confusion pretty accurately.
Oh, yeah. It was specifically the moment when he's beating the shit out of Zach and he has to go a bit Punisher and he screams, I want our memories back. I thought he maybe like another take, maybe just a little bit more force in his voice. Maybe he's just too cuddly. Maybe I love Anson Mount's face too much to see him as like a credible threat. But like for a moment like that where I need to genuinely believe that he's about to murder Zach with his bare hands or like disintegrate him into dust, I need some like John Bernthal in the Punisher screaming, and he didn't quite bring it.
Swear to me.
Like, yeah, a little bit like Christian Bale Batman. But like, it was only like one moment.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You could have notched it up from an 8 to an 8.5 in terms of like the intensity. Like, I'm never going to give Anson Mount stick for his acting. I think he's an amazing actor, especially when it comes to like comedy and like sincerity and like being just charisma as well. But like it's just like that one particular moment I was like, you could have pushed this a little bit further.
Where I would have liked to have seen him push it further is when he's talking to Luke and says, this is my moment. I wanted that song from Jekyll and Hyde. That would have been a great music montage.
Yeah.
This is my moment. This is my time. They could have done that.
That was
and
the
I
actual
would have been
musical episode, yeah. Fucking hell. What was I going to say about this one? Yeah, this was kind of like the pseudo Ortegas episode. This is the one we were kind of waiting, like even Melissa Navia said, I'm going to get an episode. And you kind of didn't. You kind of got half of one with her sort of like, showing the affirmative action. Goes like, I'm just a natural pilot by instinct, I fly the ship. Was, it was, yeah.
Well, it was nice to see her show vulnerability because like she's got such a devil-may-care maverick attitude that like seeing it getting to break in a way that doesn't invalidate the character and make you feel like she's weak is I appreciated that. Like every hero character needs their moment where they show weakness, otherwise you don't buy into their journey. They can't be perfect all the way through. But yeah, it's a case of like, well, I thought that was nice. It's like the way that she kind of picks herself back up again was a little bit lacking in substance.
Yeah, it was a little cheesy too. Stars and I had watched this one together, and that first scene, she puts on the little what is it, like the little Russian fur hat?
Yeah.
And she's all strapped up and ready to go, and she goes and meets the away team. I like that too. And then when they say, "Oh, you got to stay behind," what I said to you, Stars, was, "Oh well, it's a shame she's not going to get her episode yet." But I really liked the scene because they gave her something. They made her look competent. Yeah. They made her look, adventurous and ready to go. And I said, I like that. And then I kind of wished after I watched the whole thing they would have stuck with that because I didn't like the Robert Paulson chanting "I fly the ship." It didn't work for me. So I thought it was a little bit cheesy.
Yeah, I understand that.
Zach felt a little bit cartoonishly evil to me.
A little bit.
For someone
he was a bit TOS, really.
Yeah.
Was he
a little bit money?
Mustache?
Yeah. His money with money.
Money with money.
Need get it.
Zach just looking at over all the witches. He's like, gone. He's like, oh, money. You're the only money of monies.
Just got his stash of phaser rifles.
And one last thought. The last scene starts out with Pike and Battelle standing about 50 yards apart from each other, and it is hilarious because you know what they're going for, but it's like comically far apart, and then they slowly drift in. So I just thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Which again, another good Pike Battelle thing.
They did good work with that. Yeah, the Mariner thing,
Wayfinder,
the Ophelian Mariner's keystone, or whatever it was. Yeah,
Ophidian?
The Ophidian. Yeah.
Is there one of those in your pants, or you just happen to see me? Okay. What did we give this idol? I forget.
So this was how many scared crewmen in the court of the Crimson King? Because if you remember, there was that one crewman who was losing his mind in the court, and he's just like like that. I gave it a 6. I'm going to upgrade that to a 7. I think I did enjoy this, and probably harshing for just production.
Dude, decimals.
I like a solid 7. I like a good.
You like some
numbers lie.
I hate you guys.
Stars, you gave
it
an
give decimals all the time.
Stars, you gave it an 8. Auto, you gave it a 9. Big was on.
Did
you
I?
gave it a 6.
It's not a 9. Can I amend that?
Sorry, you want to go? Who's amending?
It's an 8.8. It's a very good episode.
8.8. Okay.
The B story I didn't really love, except Spock, that prankster.
Yeah, and Frank was on. He gave it a 5.9, but Shy, your chance to affect the ratings. Chat was also voting with a 6.25.
I'm throwing an 8 in there. I'll put it in an 8. It's like a solid episode. You know, it's entertaining bottle episode. You know, the only ball drop really is they kind of set Mbenga up for like a big action sequence that doesn't happen, but
oh my god!
And the stuff on the ship. The stuff on the ship felt like reminiscent of other like TNG episodes where everyone forgot their memory or were like.
There's nothing wrong.
A little bit of conundrum there. Yeah,
there must be something wrong with the universe.
Yeah.
I've stopped playing triggers now. I'm just saying them.
Fair enough. But I do love like moments when like even like apart from the whole episode, taking a few lines and the little bit of context we got from the cage with regards to how the Talos formation go and getting the full context and going like, man, because it's like you guys are in a fucked situation. If you were lucky, you guys got out when you did.
You had all 20 of your Starfleet ensigns against these 3 Kalar and metal helmets, and it just went bad. To
be fair, we have to assume they didn't have weapons on them. Well, no, they actually had phaser rifles.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I want to point out that my growing conspiracy theory that Pike is turning into evil Pike and good Pike, and losing his gumption. Yeah. This may be the genesis of that, because before he goes down to the planet, he sends Ortegas back to the helm and tells her, now hold on to your saddles, it's going to get a little choppy. And he's piloting the shuttle and he's, in command. But then in episode 10, when she's piloting and it's a little choppy, he acts, terrified. And
I think it's way choppier in episode 10.
I'm just saying, it's a little thread that they're adding, and then he loses his memory in episode 4, and maybe that's where it all falls apart. So.
Well, no, you know what? Actually, I think you might have a bit of a point there, where it's like, if you wanted to subtly see this in, this would be the point to go for it, because if you want Pike to question himself, you make him question just how much of himself he can lose, because he had that moment where he slipped. That'd be an interesting thing if they were like, season 3, that's where it actually started. That'd be cool.
Wait, so what is this theory? You think he split into good and evil halves?
No, I think
at some point, and so
his command style is pulled back a little bit. He's a little more passive, and then it kind of culminates in episode 10 where he doesn't know what order to give, and so it's not a real conspiracy theory, but it's almost
I think it has some legs. I think it definitely has some legs to the breaking down of Pike. Yeah, it's definitely. I think there's credence to it, definitely. Any more notes on Among the Lotus Eaters?
I think we're good.
No, we're good. Cool.
Good title.
Sure, it is a good title.
It is a good title, actually, yeah.
How about one that is equally a good title? A ancient human tradition of charades. A shuttle accident leads to Spock's Vulcan DNA being removed by aliens, making him fully human and completely unprepared to face T'Pring's family during an important ceremonial dinner. This was a Spock Amok Part 2, essentially, really, if you look at it. You can play these episodes back to back and not miss a thing.
Look, my partner, who does not watch Star Trek regularly, just happened to watch this like with me over my shoulder, and now she demands to watch every episode of Star Trek. Like this episode is a great on-ramp for like non-Trek people to come in, because Peck's comedy is
so good.
Sublime.
He's throwing 105 miles per hour with the comedy of this episode, and Pike. I mean, come on, the Pike reactions, like reactions.
Can we get some more of that cat bell?
Yeah,
wonderful.
So good.
The finger guns are good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry, I just got so thirsty.
my quibble here, because I am a Trek purist, is I would have loved a little more technobabble from Mbenga at the beginning, because they're like, oh, he's human, but otherwise he's fine and fit for duty. Well, he's obviously not, because they didn't just remove like part of him. He's like reverted to a teenager basically, and so he could have thrown in a line about impulse control or whatever in his brain mentally. He's like the age 18, whatever you want to throw in there, just sort of.
There's
because the comedy is great, but it doesn't feel like
there was a wee
Spock
bit of
just minus
precedent.
Vulcan.
There's a wee bit of precedent with this, with Saru back in season 2 of Discovery, when he goes through the Vihari and obviously nothing happens, but he ends up losing his fear impulse, and you get Pike saying to him, after the intercation with Culber and Tyler in the thing, and like he says to Saru, "You just happy to let this happen with your new instincts? Like, it's fine." But like Pike's automatically aware. It's like, okay, I know these things can change people, but they're still operational officers. So I think he's got a little bit of less hesitation to let people be themselves, but keep an eye on them.
Yeah, that's the most Trek thing ever, actually, because the problem with Federation is Starfleet is they never know what they're not looking for, right? Like they beam everything. The bioscan's fine, and then there's some weird subspace virus.
Something we don't know
like,
about.
This human Vulcan hybrid. He's just human now. He scans perfectly fine as a human. He's fine.
Okay.
So
you sold it for me, Shai. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Now I can enjoy the episode.
Yay! No, this was so good. This was like
there's so many good, like the bit where he's just eating the bacon. He's like, like just. He's such a good comedic actor, and like, and the blow up at Sam Kirk is just like that.
Oh my gosh!
I feel like that might have to go into the Hall of Awesome.
Clean your mess.
It's just so the way he's just screaming at him, like, "I will break you," and just like
I think that whole montage.
Give credit to Sam Kirk's actor. I think his name Dan Janot. Like I think fucking I love his facial expressions.
Guy
that
Fleegman.
Man is
Guy Fleegman,
he's just Guy Fleegman, but he's so good. He's such good quality every time he appears. I love Sam.
That whole montage where you're going through his various little interactions with him, like especially compared from when he was a Vulcan to now when he's a human, is like you say.
The braying laughter was so good.
Yeah.
And they didn't need music to make the montage work. That's what I appreciated about it.
They didn't do it 3 times, yeah.
So there's a little tie-in in episode 6 that's applicable here, so I'll mention it here, which I loved. At the end of episode 6, Kirk and Sam have their little moment, and then Sam storms off, leaves his cup, and Kirk says, well, Sam can be kind of, irritating or whatever. And Spock says, he agrees, and he suddenly moves over, grabs Sam's drink, and hands it to the busboy, which is like, it's fantastic. Because you may not catch it.
It's really subtle and underplayed, yeah.
It ties into the last episode, so it's good.
Yeah, that's great. I also want to give big ups to this episode, because while Ortegas may not have gotten her real moment to shine in terms of an episode, I really liked her moment with Uhura and Chapel on the shuttle.
Yeah.
Because it really pulls back, and you get to see, yes, I may be the Devil May Care Maverick pilot, but I am still the operational officer in command here. I have to make the smart choices for the civilian nurse and the recently promoted ensign so that I don't get you all killed. And you're making me go against my best impulses of I just want to hit accelerate and go. So I have to be the sensible one. And I just appreciate that, because it's like it's one of those things where we like Starfleet officers being shown to be competent and like they are taking measured risks. And the fact that she's not just like, oh, I'm the Maverick character, I'll just do it. It's like the fact that she has to actually think about it. I appreciate.
At the same time, they're all sitting there having drinks and burgers, and Chapel turns up and is like, "Hey, girls, want to do some fucked up shit?" And they're like, "Yeah, let's go."
Dude, this is like Tom and Harry going to play Chaotica, or Geordie and Data talking about his beard. Like this has legs. I love the recurring friendship where it's like, all right, this just feels right. They could be, they could be sitting around after work and hanging out, and it feels like not everything has to be plot related, which this one is. Maybe it kind of has to be when you only have 10 episodes, but just more stuff of like friends having fun or having each other's back is good. Like you want to build relationships and
Talking about them
help
reading
help the audience care about these people.
Erotic mother's journal, no, their grandmother's erotic journal, things like that. Stretching in front of the mirrors.
Well, if you want to talk about more moments to kind of build up the relationships, I really enjoyed the montage at the beginning with Chapel going through the 3 principles of Corby's archaeological medicine, where like she's like talking with Mbenga and they do a little bro fist, and then she's like in the exercise room with Ahura, and then like sitting and having drinks with Lan, and it's like, and they like, and now you can drink. Like I just appreciate these little moments of show everyone on the cast interacting. I don't think there's anyone on the cast who hasn't at least like had a conversation or been on a mission with someone else. Like it doesn't feel like, if I asked you, how often do you realistically see, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a really good example. Okay, how often do Hoshi and Reed go on a mission or have a conversation?
I don't think they ever have they?
In Enterprise.
Pineapple.
Like, apart from guess what? They don't interact. It's explicitly not an interaction between them. She is doing subterfuge around him. But guess what? 4 seasons those people were on that show. I don't think I can count an actual conversation those two had. And it's like Strange New Worlds is doing the legwork of everyone is talking to each other. Everyone at least knows each other. Everyone has had a friendly conversation.
Pineapple.
Yeah, well, it's not pineapple. It's something the pineapple contains.
Bromelain.
Although the other side of that is like there shouldn't be just a checklist of making sure everyone pairs up. There should also be once we find something that works, let's
the chemistry needs to be totally.
That was season 5. They had it planned for season 5, and we never got it. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, they had everything fixed in season 5. We just didn't quite get there.
Yeah, Shroud's going to join the crew. Would have seen Doctor Who would have turned up. Yeah, it would have been great.
Okay, I thought the Kirkovians were really stupid. The name's yellow and blue.
Weren't they?
The fact that they're in a shiny room and they sound like an automated Apple help desk, but
I love that. I thought it was hilarious.
Society of customer service is amazing.
But it's the good kind of like classic stupid campy TOS. So it was good. Also,
in fact, you know what? The volume with that whole interdimensional space that even looks like a TOS set, doesn't it? When you think about it, just a room with a load of fucking tinfoil on it.
Yeah. And I've harped on about like they're not making aliens alien enough. They just are humans, like with an accent. So this is a nice departure of non-corporeal.
Non-corporeal, you don't get those often enough. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to give the repressed Dad of the Year award to Savette, who is T'Pring's father, for just his amazing...
They have deviated from tradition a bit.
And I like to think that after this whole episode, Savette and Pike just sat down and ate canapes. Like they just like Pike was just like, I know you want to eat this. Just get her out of here, and we can just bro out.
He turns to the phrase like, "Get your mother out of here. I need to feed your father some good food," and he's just stuffing his favorite tab now.
I love that they were South Asian and they just went full.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can I also shout out? That's one of my favorite lines of the episode, just because of how Ethan Peck delivers it. Captain Pike spent all night making up like Vulcan recipes, just like doing this all night. It's like pure 50s like sitcom energy.
It's a little bit sitcom-y, isn't it? Actually, yeah. Now you think about it, this could have been played black and white on a single set. It's literally like
well, it's like that episode of WandaVision where like it's like the boss is coming around for dinner. It's very much got that same energy. I love that kind of throwback.
There's a trope of characters who need to act as though they're acting, and then you have the actors playing the character trying to like read these lines like stiltedly, and they do it in all the shows. So everyone has their own little spin on it, but that's always a funny little thing.
We've got the return of Amanda as well.
I loved her in this.
Yeah.
I didn't find it very Vulcan for her boobs to be jacked up to the ceiling.
Well, she's human.
How dare you?
But other than that, this was fantastic. This again, dude, Strange New Worlds does so much service to so many characters. That last scene with her and oh my god, my cat just slayed one and it smells so bad. That's oh my gosh.
That scene at the end with
Spock and Amanda, where, first they reference it when they're in the room with everyone else. We shared an ordinary memory. Of course, it wasn't an ordinary memory. And Spock finally realizes what should have been told to the audience many times already is that, yeah, just like him, she's a stranger in a strange land, but she's had to put up with it every day of her life from everyone around her who is judgmental. And again, it's like one of those metaphors that Star Trek is so good for. And, it's a race thing or a gender thing or whatever. She doesn't fit in and she gets crap all the time. And he never appreciated it fully until he saw it from her eyes. And so that's just a great moment for both of them.
It's so good to see Spock just be like, nothing humanizes someone who's like, guess what? I fucking love my mother. And it's like, that's something that's consistent throughout all of his characterizations. Like, it's in TOS, it's in Voyage Home, it's one of the few like really shining spots of 09 for me. It's like all the scenes with Winona Ryder and the development of the stuff on Vulcan in the prequel area. But like, I also really appreciated that, like, while we also get that perspective on what Amanda's life was like, I also appreciate that you get to see how she's adapted by becoming kind of a conniving bitch. In a good way, like conniving bitch, complimentary. Where like she's like, I'm going to teach you how to lie. It's like I need to teach you how to deal with Vulcans because I've been dealing with it my entire life. And it's like I hate to bring in Harry Potter into it, but she's very Slytherin and very just like very, I know how to couch this in ways. And no, just in terms of cunning, she's a very smart individual. And it's something that kind of got shown in Discovery Season 2 when she was able to like outmaneuver Sarek in terms of keeping amnesiac Spock, out of harm's way. A little bit. And so
until Sarek tracked her down.
Well, no, until Michael
slid it into that dress. That's all I'll say.
But it's like, I just appreciated Amanda being shown as like a cunning individual who can play the politics game just as well as Sarek.
Thank you, year-round Chamber B, for following. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I liked her little kung fu picking up the burning hot kettle.
Yeah.
I wanted her to do it with her wrists, and like have
very Mr. Miyagi karate.
Some Vulcan symbols on her
and
wrists.
Then T'Pring has to kick Spock in the nuts like 10 times in a row, and he can't react to it. And that's part of the ceremony.
Yeah, the ceremony was a bit weird. It was all basically sort of set up to basically fuck Spock over, really, wasn't it? It felt like that was the point in which they kind of went like, right, how can we make this as embarrassing as possible, rather than make it kind of based on any kind of maybe Vulcan lore. It's just basically, we're going to do the whole absolute candor thing here, and your mum's just going to be a dick for 5 minutes.
There was a writer's room whiteboard thing where they put up a bunch of ideas. They're like, which one's funniest? And then they went with that. Yeah. But T'Pring's mom coming preloaded with complaints about her daughter and giving them to Amanda beforehand is so true. It's like...
I also have to shout out, because we've been talking about like Answer and anything better, but also when Pike like is like put on the spot of like the ancient human ritual of, and then like Amanda is like looking at him and she's like, you are the captain of the flagship. You are the recipient of God knows how many decorations. You're a hero. You've inspired my son. You're a beautiful man. Everything about you screams inspiring. What have you got for me? Charades. And she looks at him like she wants to punt him out an airlock. I fucking love it. It's so good.
That's why next time they needed to inspire the ship, he had Uhura do it, because he failed so spectacularly.
That's it.
They'll go to the charades dimension and he'll be in his element.
Yeah. Oh, I'm still. I think that is a massive like missed opportunity. We should have had to play a round of charades. I would love to see that.
So that would have been good.
27 words. Logic is the bedrock of us, or something.
Sounds like.
It begins with Kurshara.
How many syllables in colon R? Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. I also want to give a shout out to Jess Bush because fucking Christ, man, when they put her through the ringer in this episode, like the way she had to deal with the Kokovians and the look on her face when she injects Spock with the genetic stuff and has to walk out and just leave it behind. Like, I felt so fucking bad for her.
But that is another one of those so stupid it's good moments. Like the aliens will only help you if you confess your crush to your soon-to-be boyfriend. Like that's the storyline that we're going with.
She just didn't hit 4 on the dial tone. She got around to the wrong department, so they had to route her through to the emotional discrepancy department or something like that. But
what were our ratings?
Well, hang on. I've got one more thing. Like Spock. Like, you break up with your girlfriend and instantly, like, this is the Ross Rachel situation. We're on a break. Like,
we were on a break.
Just instantly, just like Chapel walks in and goes, "Oh, well, why not? Let's do it."
Have you
I
seen
think I'm
Chapel?
in your camp, Idol.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying this without precedent.
Have you seen Ethan Peck?
Well, yeah, no. I and he is young. I'll give him that. So it's just a little bit like, he's had this relationship for so long, and then all of a sudden comes around to like, just. Chapel's there. Why not? And it's just
I appreciate this continuing the rehabilitation of D'Pring's character from TOS, where it's like this situation was entirely Spock's fault. Like he didn't trust D'Pring when it mattered the most. He didn't have faith in her as a full Vulcan. Well, no, he had faith. He kind of had faith in her.
I don't know if it's entirely. There's a slight flaw to the way D'Pring addresses Spock. Like she's like, "Look how I've completely accepted you." For your
a little bit,
there's a little bit of like I'm okay.
Look how magnanimous I am.
Imperfect.
Yeah,
a little bit. In her Vulcan way, she is very sort of like I think she finds
she very much cares for him.
She does, and she does factor the human side in because why wouldn't she? She has to. Like I think she might even be a bit of a like because she is very interested in like she works with criminals. She works in so she's always got that aptitude for things who are
the Captain Angel episode. She was interested in exploring human sexuality, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
She made a good point in their conversation. It's like, you have a point, Spock, but it sounds like an excuse to me. I'm still your fiance. If you can't trust me now, are you ever going to trust me? So
yeah, we shared bodies, we shared Carters, and like you told everyone else on the crew but me. And it's like, yes, you can't lay that at anyone else's feet but his.
You even told Ensign J.
Well, everyone tells Ensign J. For an episode that came out blaring, we're going to be a comedy. This had a strong, like, poignant type ending. You had that conversation. You had the Spock Amanda conversation, which is great. You had the Tom Riker ear pull off reveal, which I thought was a funny moment, a great moment.
They just flop off. It's hilarious.
You had Chapel injecting Spock before he could confess whatever he wanted to confess. So it's like all these big emotional moments that fit the story and. They didn't overload. They added a lot to the episode.
So, out of
Plus Pike's bathroom. What a nice bathroom.
Oh.
He's got. It's like that man cave of a bathroom.
The like rack of hair product.
Yeah. It's like a hotel bathroom. What the hell?
No, the hotel I recently stayed in wasn't that nice. And that was a Hilton.
Like, a nice hotel bathroom.
Not a Yarmouth dive, no. Out of how many sacred syllables did we all give it? I gave it a 10. I'm going to stick to a 10. This was thoroughly enjoyable. So did you, Stars. You gave it a 10. Auto, you gave it a 7.4. Chat gave it a 9.4. And Shah, you've yet to give a rating on this. So
I'll give it an 8. I'll give it 10. Hilarious.
I'm going to bump it up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's
you really think this is... I think it can't be improved in any capacity.
I was dying of this.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like the show I just did, the writer was like, "This show's. You know how I know the show's good? Because I'm afraid to change anything now. Because if you and then this show's like that. Like if you tinker with it, maybe you kill some of the pacing, maybe you kill some of the comedy.
How have we not talked about that episode where the part of the episode where they have to talk Spock through how to speak like a Vulcan? Flatter, more robotic.
Yes,
notice how I move my eyebrow without moving any other muscles in my face. And then Lon just goes, "Yep."
Yeah.
Like, they're all like, you talk exactly like that.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you improve on that?
No, it was thoroughly entertaining, and like you say, it had its it weighed the emotional moments with the comedy moments like absolutely perfectly, and it didn't stray outside of its like my complaints are with character moments, not like how that character is written or how it's portrayed. Like I don't like the Spock that hooked up with Chapel almost instantly, but that's more my issue with Spock just being a dick more rather than hence the problems
being human, as it were.
A little bit, yeah, and human stuff. But yeah, there we go. I loved it.
Counterpoint, I think the next episode balances comedy and poignancy a little bit better.
Well, there we go. Let's go through Lost.
I'm sorry, in 2 episodes
I was
from
going
now.
to say. I
can't
wait to get there.
We'll get there. We'll do this, and we'll do it in just time. Lost in translation. Uhura seems to be the only one who can hear a strange sound. When the noise triggers terrifying hallucinations, she enlists an unlikely assistant to help her track down the source. That unlikely assistant, of course, is our first canon appearance of Lieutenant Kirk. The real Kirk we see all along comes and joins the crew of the Enterprise on a little bit of a training exercise to come and see the crew as they are. No, actually, is that why he's here? No. Subspace Rhapsody's here to shadow Una. Why is he here in this one?
It's because the Farragut is helping out with the dilithium refinery.
Well, that's right.
The deuterium refinery, sorry.
One of my favourite little memes I've seen on the internet is that one where it's just an old style
Why the fuck
Trek.
are you always on my ship?
Yeah, it's that old style Trek cover, and it's Pike and Kirk on the floor, and Pike's looking at him just going, why are you always on my ship? Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, this is the Uhura episode.
This is the second out of 4 episodes that were that had a ton of Kirk in it too. So
yeah, we have. This is essentially we have Uhura, we have Kirk. We also have a bit of Sam and Jim in there. We also have Hema, very briefly brought back through flashbacks and zombified. Which zombified Hema? Oh my god!
That makeup was incredible.
That was freaky. Like
I'm a sucker for practical makeup. I loved it. Yeah,
that was really bad in a good way. If you know what I mean.
So yeah, I remember Orr keeps bringing me up that I said that I thought that this plot was a bit rote, and that it's just I've seen this is 3 TNG episodes rolled into one essentially. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I still feel like the actual fundamental character work that goes on here, and the conversations and the visual flair that it's given, TNG would never have done zombified Hema. I don't think we would have been allowed to get away with it on Network Hema, that level of kind of gore. I don't know.
Protomorphosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not bloodied. I mean, you see the one guy with his chest
He
ripped,
bites her in the tub.
Yeah, Barclay is fucking the shiny
fly, the
spider
Cronenberg
head.
fly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Aesthetic,
It'd be interesting. I'd be interested to see how if I could get a hold of a 90s censorship executive and show them this episode, what would you have to make any cuts?
They all died in the stream.
I don't think so. No, I thought this was pretty tame, to be honest.
I know. I appreciate when Trek goes a little bit horror, which it did here.
It was very. What was the episode where Troy has to figure out who's having hallucinations and someone's having an affair with someone? And then she jumps into the nacelle, which is very ironic.
Eye of the Beholder. Eye of the Beholder.
That's the one. Yeah, this was very similar to that episode, including even going into the nacelle room and dealing with things there.
I like getting to see these parts of the ship. Yeah. I liked it. I like this episode a lot, actually. I really appreciate Sam getting to be an actual fucking xenoanthropologist. I really appreciate that for him. Guess what? The fact that Jim is we have to go and see Sam. It's I fucking hate that. I hate that we have to go and see my brother, who I don't know the answer, but he does. I hate that. I love that shit.
I wanted them to give Kirk's role to either Ortegas, who desperately needed something at this point, or Chapel. Because one episode ago, when who was it? Chapel. When Chapel needed help, she called on her friends. They were there for her. Now Uhura, no one believes that she's hearing and seeing what she's hearing. Who's there for her? Not her friends. Some stranger who she's never met, who happens to be James Kirk, and then they give him the whole episode. It would have served either of those two, especially Ortega's, much more, I think. And Kirk still could have been there, because the stuff with Sam was sublimely hilarious. But he didn't need to have the whole episode. I think it definitely would have worked better with one of her friends, and then you build on that friendship.
That being said, and I do agree with you for the most part. There is the running conversation we've had about these legacy TOS characters coming on and taking the spotlight away from characters that maybe we want to see more of. That being said, I really like Kirk in this episode, like for his character, and I liked his first meetings with Uhura. Him coming on, like not flirting with her, but being he's exuding his.
He can't help it.
He can't help it. No, he
can't turn it
literally
off.
cannot help like talking the way he does. Like women think he's trying to come onto them, but he's just like, no, this is what I do. I just want to be friends. Like I find him Shy. We've not really spoken about like since this has been on. We've not really spoken about what you're as the resident portrayer of Kirk in a professional Star Trek production, as Kirkovian yourself. How did you take Kirk?
Yeah, this is gonna sound like I'm really down on Paul Wesley, but because I want a little more Shatner, I want a little bit more Kirkisms in his performance. I get the whole thing about actors, like if you're playing like a famous character, you have to make it your own. Otherwise you're just doing an imitation and it becomes stale. I get that, but I'm also a huge fan of William Shatner's Kirk, and I would like to see a little bit more Kirk. Even Chris Pine, when in the like Star Trek Beyond, he throws in a little like bounce like every once in a while, just for the fandom. So I miss that. I miss that, and I would like, especially when this is like the meeting of. Is this the episode that ends with like basically the 10 forward curtain closing on Uhura, Spock, and Kirk meeting in the bar?
Best meeting ever. That was great. Like if you're gonna say like how are Spock and Kirk gonna meet, like that's great.
Just casually and talking shit about Sam.
Yes.
So if you're gonna lead us down that road, and if you're gonna have Kirk on so much this season, I need a little bit more William Shatner in that performance. Not just me. People seem to really like him, and he's good. He's charming on the show. And I like you. I love the stuff between him and Sam, like the sibling rivalry and the grudging respect that gets paid back.
The stuff with the eyebrows just fucking killed me. Like it really annoyed Brody. Actually, my boyfriend. It really annoyed him. I think because he must have like sibling stuff, but like. That was so true to how it is being with a sibling. Like I have a sibling, and like, sometimes you have those moments where it's like, I could fucking kill you. just like there is a character flaw in you that I refuse to even try and engage with. I'm leaving this conversation. I just love that.
Sam is actually a bitch in this episode.
A little bit.
Like, your brother did nothing wrong. He was competent. He got promoted, and you're gonna like try to make him feel bad about it.
Oh yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
He's got daddy issues. That's the. You know what? We need to see Kirk Senior. I feel like that was gonna be. I really want a Sam and Jim. No, get him out of there. I don't want him on this.
Come on.
What? You don't.
No, I don't.
Yeah, they're gonna put him in they're gonna go Power Rangers, put him in like a glass tube like Zordon, and just have his head talk to his sons from the future or whatever.
No, I give you a counter proposal. Get Chris Pine in old man makeup to play
Hemsworth. Get Chris Hemsworth.
That's fine also as well.
Nah, that's too on the nose, Shy. We don't want to make this a mockery.
That's Prime Universe. He's George Kirk in the Prime Universe.
They don't have a budget anymore. It'll be Liam Hemsworth. It'll be one of the other lesser Hemsworths.
Oh God!
Into The Witcher. What was I going to say?
His Mexican non-equivalent Steven Spielbergo.
Non-union equivalent.
Yeah. Have to be now, won't it? Literally non-union equivalent.
So to circle back, you already brought it up, Stars. That. Yeah, the episode it's a classic Trek episodic thing, but it's largely forgettable. And when I started to think about why it's forgettable, I realized a lot of Uhura's stuff is actually forgettable, and they're giving her a lot, but it's the nature of what she does. It's like the communicator kind of by its nature doesn't get to do a lot. She's not going to pilot stuff with laser beams flying like Ortega's. She's not going to get into like phaser fights. Spock obviously has lots of cool stuff he can do. Her stuff is just kind of more tame by nature, I feel like. And so they did start to lean into this with engineering stuff. And I think, if they want to pull on that thread to give her more cool stuff, save the ship kind of stuff, they can maybe do that.
She does a lot of technical work in TOS, doesn't she? She's under the console a few times, so that's a nice little bit of precedent.
I just think the nature of the communicator doesn't lend itself to a lot of flashy stuff, but they do give her a lot of hero moments, even upcoming in this season too. So they're trying to put in the work.
Yeah, I appreciate what they do with Uhura in this season because they do such a better show of it than they ever do with Hoshi. Like Hoshi gets fucking nothing. Hoshi just sits at her console, goes a little bit more. Beep boop, and now the universal translator thing is working. It's like that's
the one time she gets to save the ship, her top comes off, and she stands there with her hands over her breast.
Yeah, it's awful.
That's how she saves the ship. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. That is her best moment. You're absolutely right, Otto.
I
didn't say it, folks.
Yeah, you said like her stuff was forgettable, and like I guess like maybe to a degree it's not as like you say flashy, but still really appreciated the in-depth character work going on between her and Kirk about like the conversation about how death can steal good experiences from you, even that don't have to do with the actual experience of the death. Like I can't look at pictures of my like family because all I could think of is how badly it ended for them, and it's like that's a really realistic thing to have to deal with. Like I still kind of struggle when I look at pictures of like people in my family who have passed on where I'm like they had an unhappy ending, and I get colors every time I look at them, and seeing her struggle with that and having a conversation with Kirk who has a really interesting relationship with death throughout the entire franchise was a really good moment for the both of them. I like that a lot.
Is this the episode that begins with her doing the switchboard operator thing? Because
no, that's Subspace Rhapsody.
Yeah. That is Subspace Rhapsody.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I to jump ahead, like that shows her makes the communications officer position much more interesting. When she's having does it multitask so much to run communications for the ship.
They should have given her manual switches.
I was going to say, she'll literally plug in jack leads into like MS-20s on the wall or something.
I wouldn't have hated it. I would have been like, this is a really dumb analog touch. This shouldn't be here, but I don't mind it.
So we had to bring this up from the archives. The one thing we've not spoken about this episode is the Pelia and Una on the station moments
I like
as well.
that.
It was definitely interesting. It's nice to see Una brought down a little peg or two, which is kind of a bit of a dynamic.
Well, just getting to see... Like, you keep on mentioning how you want to see her in a command situation, and this was kind of her exemplified in a command situation where you get to see she has a defined style. She is, by the book, regulation. I am intensely focused on a project or a management task. Do it as I tell you, not as how you wish to do it. And it's like... She's not, I would say, too overbearing. I think it's a case of like it's just Pelia's chaotic nature that really rubs off on her a little bit. That kind of gets her hackles up a little bit because she's otherwise like, and even in Discovery season 2, she was shown to be a very capable organizational force. But it's just, I like it when you get to see main characters having a defined style in which they do their job that contrasts with other ones, and seeing how that rubs people the wrong way. Like I appreciate characters getting to be a little bit. Annoying to work with. It's more realistic that way.
That never happens in real life. What are you talking about?
I
love all my coworkers. But the reverse is true because Pelia rubs her the wrong way, and rightly so. And that line is like so fire, where she's like, you've been in Starfleet since before I was born, but I'm promoted over you. Why do you think that is?
Wow.
It's like, yeah, and it's true too. Like, she doesn't even say anything back because what can she say? It's true. So you have that, and then you have the moment in the shuttle where she's like, for what it's worth, I know you're just mad because I'm not Hemmer, and it was a great Hemmer tribute episode. I hate when they write a character out and then pretend like they never existed. Yeah. It's like,
no, they carry along through.
If we're doing world building, character building, prequel stuff, let's show how characters impacted other characters, even if they're not around anymore.
Yeah, like it kind of goes to show just how much good work they did with Hemmer in season 1. Like, he was only in 4 or 5 episodes. He wasn't in like half the season. But it was still a case of when I saw the video that she had made and like the flashback of him in the turbo lift, I was like, man, it just hit right. It had the correct impact. They explicitly mentioned he's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi like mentor Jedi character, but it had the right impact. Like I saw him and I was like, oh man, that's an actual good like long motion moment. They put in the legwork to make it matter.
Only travel in single file.
Because they've made Hemmer the Obi-Wan, and Carol Kane is like Yoda essentially.
A little bit, actually.
For 200 years, I have trained engineers. I will be the one to decide whether.
Guys, are we watching Star Wars? Is that what's going on?
Just get Hemmer dropping out from the rafters going, hello there.
Hell yeah, you are a bold one.
Although they made him more jovial in those two little recorded clips than he was in the entire season 1.
Oh yeah. It was that's literally a don't show this to anyone else. I have to maintain my gruff demeanor.
I need to be able to snap my fingers in engineering, and everyone just gets out. Like I love that moment. That was great.
Yeah. That's so great. What do we give this episode?
Hold on, one last thought.
Oh, you got one.
Uhura is who's the other crazy ensign that's sabotaging everything?
Ramon.
Ramon. We haven't even mentioned. I thought he was fine in his role, but the scene where he's about to blow up the ship and Uhura's there, Kirk swings into action, comes out of nowhere, grabs her, hits his communicator, and 0.5 seconds later they are out of there and the ship beam. Miles Edward O'Brien must have been there at work in the transporter pad, because that is the quickest call to transport time window that they've ever had.
So quick. They are so quick.
Chief Kyle's a monster. Chief Kyle's a monster. If you don't get that transporter going immediately, come down on you like hellfire.
But Ensign J.
Your transport in 1.5 seconds, or your transport's free.
Did they explain in story where Kyle went?
Not yet.
No, it's just a casting thing.
Okay, so I like to think that he's still running the.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
The
they established in TNG that there's people in different transport rooms, with Picard calling down for O'Brien and he's not there.
He's traded one deck for another. He's gone from transporters to DJs. He's still pushing the same buttons.
He went to the one transporter room that had a freaking chair for the operator.
Finally, no more back problems.
Yeah, I really hope they get the actor back for season 3, because I know he left to join on the show and then that show died. So I really would love to get him back, because he had such work put into his characterization for a bit character.
There's a reason they call him Bullseye Kyle as well.
It's true.
So out of Sam Kirk's emotive eyebrows, I gave it a 9.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna drop it to an 8, because I think at some point in the episode I remember thinking that Nebula's alive, isn't it? And it was, but I think it was a very telegraphed episode that followed all the rules. I really liked Kirk in it. It was a very good episode. I liked that we got the start of the, and I know it's also a complaint we're starting to sow the seeds of TOS in here a bit early, but I do like what they're doing with it, and it did work very well for me. So, but yeah, 8 for me. Stars, you gave it an 8.5. Also, you also gave it an 8. Our guest at the time, let's just assume that was Cranky, we gave it a 7. Shy,
that's Cranky,
yeah.
I also give it a 7, because it's very predictable and very kind of rote, and it's not Gooding's best episode.
I want to drop that a little bit too, because I think it had more. I watched these all within the last day, so I shouldn't admit that, but I am a Trekaholic. It's 7.2.
7.2.
It did have a lot of problems, I think.
Yeah. I actually prefer the time travel episode of this. I gave them both 7s, but that's because I'm not a decimal point coward. So,
sorry, which time travel episode are you referring to this season?
The one where they go back and Khan is a child, and they're like, "Well, if I just strangle him, maybe we're okay."
The old reverse grandfather paradox. Okay, next episode. This is the one everyone's been waiting for. Those old scientists.
An
accident while investigating a time portal sends ensigns Beckett Mariner and Bradwood Boimler through time from the 24th century, and Captain Pike and his crew must get them back where they belong before they can alter the timeline. I've literally put in my notes 10 out of 10 episode, pure fucking goodness. It top to bottom, just so good. I pity those that haven't watched Lower Decks, because you miss out a lot on it, but it still works if you haven't watched Lower Decks, because you don't need to explain. Jack Quaid fits Boimler, and so does Tawny Newsom as well, but Jack Quaid fits Boimler to a T. He just exudes that energy. It's so good.
Well, he is Boimler. So.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a different dimension to literally a very realistic dimension to it.
Him being
it's all the lack.
Him being about 4 feet taller than everyone else, that was pretty.
That's quite funny.
I feel like that's very appropriate for Boimler, being this freaking raisin farming beanpole of a weirdo.
Dude, I want to see him and Doug Jones play patty cake in some episode. That would be awesome.
That's the next
tall is
crossover.
he? Is he like super tall?
He was like a foot taller than Law.
Yeah. I can't. Every single character is well served in this episode. Like, I can't think of many episodes where I can literally point at every single member of the cast and go, "You had a shining moment, and you had a shining moment, and you had a shining moment," and just everyone has at least one line that I can remember, whether or not it's "I love grapplers," or whether or not it's Ortegas being like, "I am, you're a good bad influence," or the Dom Jot joke, which is just such a natural lead-in and is such a lower decks pull,
They
but
got a whole
it feels
Trelane
very
thing going
natural
on.
for Ortegas. Yeah, just like it's such a natural fusion of the two. Like, it's like this isn't a Tuvix abomination. This is just,
do you know what?
A perfect fusion of
that's
styles
what I was going to say.
here.
The perfect thing about this episode is it doesn't feel unnatural for the cast of another show to come over and enhance the already storylines. Like, this isn't just a one-away, throwaway trials and tribulations. This is a whole.
This is a really important episode.
It really is. And they fit so well. And it's played mostly for comedy, but like Charades, it has its very emotional moments, like, which shouldn't work with a Lower Deck cast. In theory, when we first announced this, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to have Lower Decks.
Wait, they do emotional moments on Lower Decks.
They do, but what I'm saying is, like, for the format, like, when you first heard about it, like, Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, apart from the timeline things, directed by Jonathan Frakes, sounds like an awesome and insane proposition that it's either going to be very terrible or it's going to be awesome. And it landed on awesome, and it landed on awesome in the right way. Like, none of this felt like they were struggling to do it just because they could. Like, it wasn't made just because they said, oh, we're going to do a crossover, right, now write something. It felt like someone already had a genesis of an idea and went, can we do this? Like, is this possible?
Well, they set it up, right? Strange New Worlds not being afraid of doing comedy, both in first season and second season, paves a way for this episode to exist. And Jonathan Frakes is, like, a great comic director. From The Offspring, when he's like, Commander, what are your intentions towards my daughter? You're just like, this guy knows how to do comedy, and he's just proven it over and over again.
Great director. Period. Do you remember the tallest man you've ever seen?
You know how to run.
No, you can't. Don't even try.
No, you can't.
I had low expectations when I heard this was going to happen, and I've never been more wrong. This was unbelievable. And for this, I'm going to bring it up again next episode. For it to go from this to Under the Cloak of War to, absolute whiplash in tone, and yet they executed both perfectly. It's like, what kind of show are we watching here? Is this sci-fi? Are they expanding the genre of what Star Trek is? I don't know. Maybe.
It literally is that thing of, if every single episode of Strange New Worlds was as good as this and as good as Under the Cloak of War, if it was like this, 10 episodes of this every season, you'd be like, this isn't just the best Star Trek's ever been, it's like one of the best TV shows ever made. Like, in terms of just emotional punch and comedy and making you think about things and reflecting on your own life experiences. Like, that conversation that Mariner and Boimler have with Pike in his quarters is just so fucking well written. Like, and it's just such a incredible blend of, like,
I'm thinking about that speech Boimler makes, and I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about it because he has such a good speech. It's so good.
It's like, do you ever think about the fact that a one-off decision to have Captain Pike be the captain of the Discovery in season 2 has, like, through ripple effect, and the choice of having him know about his future and be the biggest fucking hero of them all, and suddenly you just have this entire character arc, and then it's like, cool, let's bring in these two weirdo time travelers from the 24th century who know about what happens to this wonderful, beautiful, incredible man, and they want to tell him, and they don't feel like they can, and then suddenly he's like, oh, I already know, and they're like, wait, you know about the... and then it's just like, it effortlessly blends from that comedy into, and even then, that whole thing about his dad, even that's a callback to Discovery season 2. It's like, just effortlessly building on all of these different strands and bits from 3 different shows, actually. And then you
Thank you,
get
Discovery.
this incredible... guess what?
Thank you, Discovery.
I'll call it out even if no one else will.
Dude, in an alternate universe, everyone pans the shit out of Strange New Worlds, and Discovery is the greatest show in the history of Star Trek.
That's weird. I don't know what that's like. And then you just get this conversation with Pike about his father and like what spending time with people actually means when you're gone, and the importance of forming, not just memories, but like fostering your attachments and making sure that people will remember you not just as an influence but as a friend. Like that's such an important lesson to learn. That's a great moral lesson. Just so incredible.
So at the beginning of the episode, the worst thing in the episode happens, where Rutherford calls them tachyons instead of tachyons. So he should learn how to pronounce his tachyons. That's what I have to say.
That's canon now. That's canon.
No, that's literally the only. Maybe something will come up. That's like the only complaint I have about this. Now, we talked about the Spock stuff, and I think they paid that off. I think they smoothed that out, and I'm upgrading this one from 9.9 to 10, which I don't give out a lot, but this is it blows my mind. So and the thing that really stuck out to me on this last rewatch is halfway through, 30 minutes in, they're about to send Boimler back. They had this kind of emotional sort of goodbye. He's ready to go. And it feels like a full meal at that point. It felt like if they wrapped it up here, that would be a satisfying, strong episode. Halfway through, and then they give you that all over again. It's awesome. That speaks to the pacing, where it goes. It's a full hour. It's the second longest one, I think, of the season. But it does. You don't feel it. It flies by.
It's such a labor of love, right down to the intro being changed up with the creature sucking on the cell and the koala, just like so much. Like, the idea that they were like, no, we have such faith in this crossover that I am going to go up to the Paramount executive and say, I want an animated intro. And no, we're not just putting it through some shitty cell shading filter. We're not getting AI to do it. We are animating this because I want to put jokes in there. Like, just so much love, so much care, so much attention, and
I mean, they also do a lot
literally,
with...
if every episode of Star Trek was this good, like, I would never watch anything else.
They also do a lot with the Orions as well, because the Orions is a through line that's been going for Lower Decks as well, obviously through Tendi. Bring out a little bit here as well, with them trying, with Tendi's ancestor, and you get the classic ring ship that you see in the remaster of TOS that was never really sort of seen before, which is a very cool design. I like that. That's very cool. But yeah, you kind of get the little bit of diplomacy from Pike to sort of say, like, well, what if you discovered it first? You want to be scientists, not known as, the deplorable people you are portrayed to be.
So the captain, anyone remember his name, the Orion captain?
Oh God, off the top of my head.
Dave.
I feel kind of bad about it too. So Dave steals the portal. It, eminent domain, whatever. They found it, they can take it. Is he really a bad guy? No, he's a bad guy because he has a beard and a leather trench coat on. That's the only reason he's a bad guy. He took something on the planet that was unguarded and unclaimed, and when someone confronted on and said,
"We need Carras, by the way."
Okay, Carras, Dave Carras. When someone confronted him on taking, he said, "Okay, but trade me for it." He didn't. There was no mustache twirl. You think he's sort of a bad guy because of his demeanor or whatever, but he's really not. And so that kind of tweaks your preconceptions a little bit about Orions, which is another through line of the episode. So great job by him. And then obviously that line, that's all I ever wanted. In parentheses, to be acknowledged. That's a nice little, if not a gut punch, then a gut. Whatever.
If you can make me care about a character that's got all of like 2 minutes screen time and is like normally the antagonist of the episode, then you've done your fucking job right. You're doing just fucking great work. And yeah, like the animated scene at the end was also just we were all hoping it would happen, and then
it makes sense in canon too, because no one knows what Orion Deloc does.
Exactly.
So technically, you can't have any quibbles.
What was in those drinks?
Okay, I want to run down my abridged version of these notes because I did all of them in the episode review, but one new one I added. When Boimler first gets sucked into the portal, he yells, "Remember me!" Which is so fun. The shaky cam, when he first walks onto the bridge, they do his point of view and they do a shaky cam. You just know his knees are about to give out. I love that part. When Pike is with Una in his ready room, Another gut punch line. He says he was so excited to see me for a second. I felt like my future's not so bad. And you're like, oh, my Pike, you just feel so bad for him. The Boimler power walk. Oh my god, that is the best second and a half of the entire episode. It's so good. The fact that they tried to make this a whole labor of love. They reference everything from the Bell Riots to the Grapplers to every series gets to get in on the fun.
So
Spock's and
specific.
Yeah, that's one of those fourth wall references that is right at home in this episode. Spock's impeccable logic breakdown with Boimler, where
Spock's
he's like,
smile.
If I change anything about who I am now, that'll change the future. So all I've got to do is all I can do is stay the course. That's classic Spock logic. We already mentioned it, but that Pike scene in the quarters, which by the way, he said he had when he dressed up as Pike for Halloween, and he had to contour the hell out of the jaw. That look from Anson Mount, where he may as well be going like tee and
Pike is so susceptible to flattery in this series. It's amazing.
Yeah. He actually stops his charade and just kind of goes like, huh, really? Me?
Oh, he does say. And really grey hair.
The only other thing I'll shout out then is when the Oronite or whatever they called it was ready.
Horonite, yeah.
They do the little
microwave ding.
Thank you. The microwave ding.
Oh yeah.
When the Heronium was ready.
And they actually go back
awesome.
and everyone's sort of nerding out over the Enterprise crew as well. Like, Uhura's going like, and Hoshi Sato, and Ortega's like, yeah, Ensign Mayweather. Like, yeah, you're like the only person that likes Ensign Mayweather, you weirdo. Poor guy.
The fact that they're like, first part of the NX-01, and there's nothing else to say about that, so quickly get in here with the Oji line.
Exactly. Oh, I did like the line from Pelia and Spock when she goes like, "What are you doing to my engineering floor?" And it's like, Spock goes, don't assume you're the only one who uses it or something. I forget what the exact line is, but it's very good.
It would be illogical to assume you are the only one.
Yeah. I need that floor. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Even if they strip away all the referential labor of love stuff, it still works fine as an episode. The plot is fine. We get some stuff with the Orions that's totally new and fresh, and it would have been fine without all that. And the fact that they weave all that stuff in effortlessly is just tremendous writing.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is the same people that wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Stop it.
Everyone's got
all right, so what was our rating on this?
So, out of fissile isotopes separated at high speed, can you have a guess? I gave it a 10. Stars, you gave it a 10. Auto has now given it a 10. Shy, I'm assuming you giving it a 10.
Did I get...
You didn't.
I
just put a 10 in there.
Oh. I remember when I was watching, I was like, what, something's missing? But in retrospect, I'm like, no, nothing's missing. It's a 10.
It's a 10, yeah. The guest we had on at the time gave it a 9.9. I forget who that was. Let's assume it's
Peggy. That cheeky little bugger.
Because he's like, nothing can be perfect. Perfection is an illusion.
Yes. And chat gave it a 10 as
Except
well.
for this episode. It's
perfect.
It's perfect.
Under the cloak.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Because we're introducing something new to the Trek continuum.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. We need to. Yes, we need to introduce, please.
The Kivas Fajo Jovis Trophy Room of Awesomeness.
Yes.
What is happening?
Now that's a Star Trek.
This is going.
This is our first inductee into the Hall of Awesome. This is art, and this is all those stupid flowery adjectives and metaphors that people make about stuff that they really like. This is why people watch Star Trek. This is great stuff.
Yeah, this is going in our very first entry into our brand new Kivas Fajo's Jovis Trophy Room, name to be finalised at a future date, but that's probably going to stay.
Yeah, it's a perfect episode. It's the trouble with tribbles.
I actually put up a
great
poll.
Gateway.
Yeah. I put a poll on Twitter very recently about what was your favourite one. Did you like favourite crossover episode? And the choices were this one, Trials and Tribulations, and Generations, and I forget another one I put on there. I forget which
Flashback.
Generations.
Flashback. Yeah.
Flashback.
No one really voted for Flashback. Very few for Generations, but it was nearly 50-50 on this and Trials and Tribulations. So
it's just so good.
Yeah.
The love shows story.
Let's be clear. I love Flashback, but it's clearly not as good as these other episodes. But I enjoy Flashback, even though they get his chair wrong. I love that.
That's the thing that kills it for you. Never mind too many shots of the girl falling off the cliff or whatever it was.
Yeah, but I bet they call it tachyons instead of tachyons.
Yeah, exactly. Too much of that. Needs more RAM.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I edited that out of my memory.
You just
Yeah, appropriate, actually.
It's like the Molly O'Brien falling through the time vortex thing.
Actually, I need to cut that scene again and add Alan Rickman falling at some point. I just need to do it.
Ho, 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 now I have a phaser rifle.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Anyway, speaking
no,
of...
just cut Yippee-ki-yay into the Star Trek episode instead.
That's right. Cut to Bruce Willis going Yippee-ki-yay. Yeah.
Well, speaking of macho men with phaser rifles, this next one, Under the Cloak of War. Captain Pike...
I got notes, baby. I got notes and notes for this.
Captain Pike and his crew welcome a Klingon defector aboard the USS Enterprise, but his presence triggers the revelation of some shocking secrets. This is the Mbenga MASH punishment fits the crime episode. Go on.
I think Otto should just take lead on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Otto. It's a perfect
Well,
episode.
I was hoping you guys... I want to hear from you guys before I steamroll everyone with my intense...
All right, well, fair
here.
enough. In which case, I'll just bring up the only criticism I really have of the episode, which is the only thing I really have been in for, which is the slightly cliche dialogue between the ensign and Mbenga. That's the only bit. That's the only bit I have a problem with.
I was hoping it was going to be something else, because then I was hoping I could change your mind on that, but...
Yeah, that's the thing. This actually isn't a perfect episode, right? But the quality of the quality is so high that the underdeveloped ensign, and it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't.
It really doesn't. It's a means to an end. It's a writing shorthand.
Yeah.
Get to the stuff that matters, and fuck, man, the stuff that matters is so good.
The thing, though, is they had to have some kind of catalyst, because he's become a man of peace. But they need him to go butcher a lot of people for the story to make sense. So you got to have a catalyst. What's the catalyst going to be? Well, it's, okay, you tug on his heartstrings. It's this innocent boy that shows up full of hope, full of Star Trek, and then, you see him meet his end. So they had to have someone in that role. And, yeah, it was a little rusty and a little cliche, but that's how it worked.
Completely figurable, but, just all the character moments are so strong. And there's even, a little bit of comedy here and there, like the stuff with, Ortega's getting caught out on the bridge, being, completely distrusting the defector. Stuff like Spock trying to do a good boyfriend save and getting the Jagal to, shut the fuck up about all this peace he's done. Just, all these, good little character moments, just, perfectly deployed, and just... I feel like this is a stronger, even though it's not an Ortega's episode by any stretch of measure, her moments in this are really strong. I feel like if you ever had a doubt of maybe they aren't giving Melissa Navi at these moments because she's not a good actor, no, you can see she's a really good actor in these moments. The stuff at the dinner table and outside of Pike's quarters is just, you can feel that simmering resentment and that injustice just burning in her. And it's such a strong contrast to Chaplin and Mbenga. It's the character work is just so good.
Is this the one that was filmed after she lost her partner? I don't remember the timeline with this.
I think it was.
I think it's season 2 in entirety was.
Oh, okay.
So it's around there.
I thought I remembered it was right before this or something, but maybe wrong.
I'll get my only major complaint. I agree with the complaint about the sort of cliche dialogue between Ensign Ricky or whatever his name was, and but I also thought
Inman.
Exactly. I wasn't keen on the slap fight physical contact Mukbara.
I will change your mind.
Okay. That's my only complaint. The rest
Change
of the episode is brilliant. Yeah, I'll defer to the floor for Otto to filibuster this one.
Please tell me you have a chart.
No, I don't handle slides like you do, Shai. You are the master of presentations. So jump in whenever, because I'm going to talk a lot. Ra sounded like Tony Todd. I had to look him up. I had to look up his acting credit, because the first few minutes, or first few lines at least, I'm like, is that Tony Todd? I'm like, Did they really bring him back for this? No, not quite, but he does sound a lot like him. So,
He's just got that sonorous quality to his voice. He's very, very. You can see why he's like able to talk his way out of any manner of things.
Yeah,
that's right. You got that wire cred. You got to bring in that wire cred.
It's true. The wire. It works from Gabrielle Burnham. Yeah. It works.
Exactly.
They do a good. It's not quite a bait and switch, but it kind of is. They're setting the audience up to wonder: is Ra really? Is he a good guy? Is he reformed, or is he just? Is it a Klingon plot?
Is it part of a Romulan plot, a ploy to start a war?
I did bring my own sound effects, so shy. So no slides, but
very nice, very nice.
But it turns out it doesn't really matter whether he's a good guy or a bad guy because the story's not about him; it's about Babs. And I think it would have ended either way. Well, choose to live is like the theme through this.
Well, it's the Rashomon effect. You don't know. You don't know how this ends.
Yeah, they are very careful. They are very careful to never show Roz actually doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you never see him in any of the flashback footage. He's only ever referred to by name. Or I think you might see, like, a glimmer of a shoulder when, you see Mbenga fucking killing the other three, warlords. Like, they are very careful to keep that ambiguity just right so that you're like, but like you say, or it doesn't matter. It's not really the ambiguity is just like it's the frosting on the cake. The actual cake.
Yeah. He's a bad guy by Klingon standards.
Yeah,
because he ran.
Yeah.
Didn't die like a hero.
I think it's meant to be that he committed all these horrible atrocities, but he didn't kill his own generals, which is fine because you're not meant to like him anyways, and he does a lot of stuff, a little like stuff that would piss off most people. So, so when he walks into sickbay, I did think it was a little contrived. He happened to burn his hands so that we could take him to sickbay and meet Babs. That was like, but yeah, it was fine. If he's touring the ship, they would have taken him there anyway.
Yeah.
When he walks in the room, Babs' fucking bug eyes are unbelievable because he's an actor. He's a man with bedroom eyes, as they say. And when they cut to him, when Raoul walks in, they're like saucers, and it's awesome. And then he goes through all this PTSD reaction, which I'm not qualified to speak on how accurate or whatever that may be, but it was compelling nonetheless. So I did like that. I could have done without Clint Howard in this episode. He was good in the role. I liked the role. Yeah. I liked all his dialogue. It was all fine, but it's one of those things where you watch a movie and then you see a famous actor come on. It kind of takes you out of the moment a little bit. And so, him being famous in Star Trek is just, it took me out of it for a second, but I think he pulled me back. He did well. He did really well.
That's the thing. He's like acting. He's doing like solid character work there. There was no like quirk or wink like, hey, I'm Clint Howard. He was just being that guy who'd been worn down by war. It was really good.
Was keeping it together just about, yeah.
There's this lovely thread running through of optimism versus grizzled, experienced vet with Chapel and Mbenga. Chapel's trying to save Alvarado, and Mbenga says, we need to get this pad cleared. Later, when she tries to save the pattern buffer and he deletes it, there's the manually starting. There's all sorts of things where she's a little bit shell-shocked coming into this, and he guides her through it about as gently as someone with his horrible experiences can. And that sort of speaks to his nature.
If Mbenga had been the doctor on Voyager, the Tuvix episode would have been 5 minutes. It would have been like, nope.
It's straight back in the transports. Off you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Janeway is going to, can you overrule Babs? I don't think so. Like, if he says no, it ain't happening.
Guess what? It's a good thing we've never seen Pike doing that dumb captain thing of, I need to remain in command. It's like, you're sick or whatever. It's like, no, fucking Mbenga gives you an order, you fucking follow it. In regards to medicine, it's like you fucking follow his orders.
There's this other thread that runs through it. Federation ideals versus reality, and that comes up a lot in Star Trek, but this is a good one. And it's not just Pike, because Uhura in the dinner scene, While Ra's being boastful and bragging and egotistical, she's guffawing at everything he has to say. When she's on the bridge with Ortega, she's given the benefit of the doubt, and it makes sense for her as the youngest crew member to be
the
starry-eyed Federation idea.
Yeah.
And so that really fits. Both her and Pike, help out with that. The scene where they keep the idea of keeping someone suspended in the transporter is it's kind of a retcon, because when Scotty does it in Relics, it's this brilliant idea that no one's seen before, and it's great to give him the miracle worker moment. But it also makes sense because we see him do it in season 1. So why would he? He trusts his daughter with this sort of experimental kind of procedure, and now we see this as a genesis of that. This is where he learned to do that skill, and then we see it later timeline-wise applied to his daughter, which I think is one of those things that adds to previous material that we saw. So I like that. Pike's cooking has made it into about 70% of the episodes in this season. I think they could pull back on that a little bit. It's starting to feel like I fly the ship, sort of a chant that resonates throughout the episodes. You don't think so, Shy?
No, because the bit this season is that people aren't finishing his food or not eating his food, and it's kind of like Picard not finding a chief engineer like that actually works in the first season. I like these.
So I thought it was just Patel that wasn't eating his food, but no, it's everyone. No one's eating his spaghetti.
They have a bite here or there, yeah.
So something that I only appreciated on a rewatch. Mbenga and Ortega's go to Captain's mess for dinner. He finds Ortega's pacing outside the hallway. She says she doesn't want to go in there with the Butcher of Jagal. And I'm like, girl, you talking to the Butcher of Jagal. It's like, whether you want to or not, you don't realize it. And that's a little thing that, you won't pick up until the end of the episode. So that's great. Ra's boastful nature is fantastic. I thought that was a great plot point. Not only does it fit with what we know of Klingon culture to be loud and boastful, but it's a good cover for someone who likely deep down inside is either ashamed at his cowardice or ashamed at the atrocities he committed, which, we don't know, again, if he's a good guy or a bad guy, but it does fit for that bravado to sort of plaster over that. It's a small thing, but I like that the B story here isn't contemporaneous. Most Star Trek episodes, A, B, C stories kind of all happen at the same time. The fact that this is all flashback just helps it feel a little bit different from most of your episodes. So,
that
line
this is too heavy of an episode to have an actual B story going on.
Yeah, because you can't do comedic relief.
Is it a B story when it ties in with the main plot quite directly? It all kind of just feels like adjacent.
It's a parallel storyline, but it dovetails at the end. But I still
it's a Rashomon story, right? So you're getting different perspectives, and
Well, I just mean in terms of the directorial
the way it's structured and
kind
paced,
of A-B story, that the Andorian fellow whose name I don't remember. I like the little line by him where he says, "I'd rather die tomorrow than today," when he's requesting the Protocol 12 drug, because. You could. There's a whole meaty story you could go into there about the things people do.
Trask.
Trask, that's right. The things people do to survive one more day. That if they had if they were afforded the luxury, they wouldn't do. That's just a neat little thing. There's so many things in here.
Protocol 12.
The first big oh shit moment is when they're in the captain's room. They're having dinner. Pike excuses Mbenga because he sees his veins are about to burst, and Rog grabs his arm on the way out.
Yeah, that was.
I remember when I was watching this episode for the first time. I was watching it with Brody, and I was saying something to him at the time. I think I was talking about some kind of Star Trek reference, and then I saw him grab his. I just shut the fuck up. I was like,
That is a dead Klingon. That Klingon has now died.
Yeah.
He is no longer living.
Yeah, no, it's that is a bad idea.
That's an ex-Klingon.
That's how well constructed the tension is.
Mm-hmm. It's very intentional from Ra. He knows what he's doing because then he follows it right up with an offer for Mokbara, confrontation. So he knows what he's doing. It's not like because when Mbenga said Jagal changed us all, you can see Ra perk up. He's like, oh, there's someone that I may have met in battle. And that sort of energizes, I think, that part of Klingon inside him. Where am I in my notes?
Page 3
Protocol
of
12,
6.
by the way, is clearly,
okay, so
clearly Vulcan blood.
Yes.
Execute protocol.
It's just rat. It's pure rat poison. That's all it is.
It's Vulcan blood extracted during Ponfar.
Oh,
That's how they.
It's tiger blood, okay?
That's
Yeah.
How do you even proposition that? Like, excuse me, while you're can I just
Is that a lurper in your pocket? You're just happy to see me.
a mid-note break. Let's talk about that elephant. His dialogue with Inman. It's a little cheesy. Like I said, I think it sets up the catalyst. Would this be better coming from Chapel? Because she is still at that point the bit of a shell-shocked idealist. Would her trying to buck him up and saying, this is what we do, I joined Starfleet to help people, medicine kind of thing, would that be better coming from her?
Yeah, I don't know, because they kind of portray her as not a newbie. She is like almost like a medical veteran of herself, but she's just not really been on the battlefield that often. But yeah, she doesn't seem like she's the Federation idealist at that point.
I think I would have just changed the dialogue, and instead of having it be between Mbenga and the ensign, I would have had maybe the ensign and Mbenga share a few words. Maybe you don't even see what they say to each other, but then Mbenga and Chapel meet up for a conversation, and she basically like talks to him about the fact that like they just sent that guy off to die, and they know it, and how that kind of feeds into the idea of what are we doing here? What did I come into Starfleet to do? I didn't come here to send young men to die after patching them up after they were nearly dead. Like, I feel like that would be a nicer way to make the point about the idealism and the optimism dying on the battlefield. I feel like that'd be a nicer way to make the point. And also, it's a case of, we know for a fact that Jess Bush and Babs can fucking meet like that and loggerheads, and they can match each other's intensity. And it's like, I'm not to take anything away from the ensign's actor, but it's a case of, there's a reason he's the part actor and these are the main actors,
I thought about it, and I think I ultimately decided that it did need to be still between those two, because that does set up why he would snap and go off. And so that next scene then is like the second big gut punch of the episode. Inman comes out in his armor, meat to the grinder, and you know it was coming, but it has to happen anyway. It's still powerful, and the audience, I think, can instantly feel what Mbenga feels. They know this kid is screwed. They know he's trying to put on a brave face. He has to do it anyway, and in a lot of ways, that brave face makes it even more tragic. He says, "I'm a soldier. This is what I do." Well, 10 minutes ago, you said you were scared and you just wanted to explore and learn, and he's trying to put on a brave face, and he's dead, and it's like, it's
dying,
coming.
living a lie,
it's hard to avoid.
It makes it worse. Can't even die honestly, almost.
The scene a little later with Spock and Chapel in the corridor, I think, is really great for Spock, because his journey through humanity is really similar to Data. And he gives this very Data-esque line where it says, the data suggests that the loss of life on Jagal was significant, and she kind of snaps at him. He's being obtuse, in that sort of Vulcan way. And I think it really highlights his youth. He's still in his early 20s, and he's kind of at the beginning.
He can't contextualize this stuff, yeah.
Yes, he's at the beginning of his maturity. So I think that's a good little bit. He gets like 2 lines in the episode or whatever, but that is a good little bit for him, I think. The scene, my favorite scene, I think. Oh God, there's so many. I shouldn't say that. But the scene where Mbenga purges the transporter buffer.
Oh yeah,
they did
no
this
hesitation at
so.
all.
The acting, the directorial choices were so. There's no massive dramatic buildup. There's no close-ups on the face. There's no swell of music. She's twisted a little bit. Chapel's twisted because she wants to try to find a way to save him. And while the audience is focused on that, you see this calm, steady angel of death hand float into frame, and he just presses the fucking nuclear button out of nowhere. And it's like, once you realize what he did, you feel like crap. Chapel feels like crap. For him, it's Tuesday, And the look right after he does that, he has his deadpan, like, I'm so done with this shit look. It looks like he's done it 100 times before, and he's going to do it 100 times again. And it's
so much worse than that, isn't it? When you think about the context of that, it's a case of, it's not even that you died on the transporter pad or that I couldn't save you during surgery. It's that I literally have this incredible way I can potentially save your life. I gave you a second chance, and it's not enough that I failed you on the first chance. I fail you on the second chance as well, and that just makes it even worse.
Maybe the clear cache button on the transporter buffer should be harder to hit. Design note, yeah.
Plastic cover, yeah.
To keep me from dying because someone leaned against the couch.
It's right in the middle too. It's like the size of your fist, right in the middle of the console.
Do you think they've got that on every
kill crew? Yes, no.
Do you think that's why O'Brien was stuck in the transporter room after being on the con for so long? Is like, the Admiralty's on board. Did you beam them to the right place? And he's like guiltily looking at the purge button, like,
Yeah. So this Mokbara scene. This Mokbara scene, I also thought sucked at first blush. Because Babs, he's like, what, 2-time Pan Am Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. And that scene reminded me of in Taken 2, where Liam Neeson's jumping a fence and they do like 100 cuts in 10 seconds.
Taken 2!
They cut the shit out of this scene. And but I asked myself, why is he getting his ass kicked by this old fat Klingon? And then I realized it's all on purpose. It's hard for a professional in storyline and for the actor to look bad on purpose. If someone's really practicing something, it's harder to look bad than it is to be extremely proficient. So he lets Ra beat up on him and have the high ground, so to speak, as we're mixing franchises here. But then when he does, after getting knocked down a few times, he asks General Ra questions, which one fought the hardest? Did you really kill? And when he realizes that he lied to him, you see the look on his face change, and then he takes over in combat, and about 5 seconds later, his fist is an inch away from Ra, ready to kill him. And that second part of the combat, I found much more realistic. So I think that was just a choice. It wasn't that these guys are terrible at combat. It's he's suckering him in. He wants to know the truth, and once he finds it out, he's ready to end him. Another rewatch only note that I caught when they're chatting in the Mokbara scene, we get a flashback to Mbenga killing those 3 generals, and it's shot and cut where if you know it's Mbenga, you can tell. You see sort of the side of his face for a fraction of a second, but if you don't know that, you think that it's Ra. So they kind of let the viewer in on that secret, and probably subliminally some people might have realized that, but I think it's nice that they left just enough of Babs in so that you can tell it's him when you're rewatching.
Like if you've studied Babs's cheekbones in detail.
Dude, his cheekbones are higher than Amanda Grayson's breasts. They go all the way to Canada. And he is a handsome man, okay? We see a little pad when Pike is looking at Mbenga's service record, 208,000 casualties for this war on Jagal. For reference, English Civil War and the 20 years in Afghanistan are about the same death count. So, and this was just one planet of the Klingon War. So, I thought that was neat to put that in perspective. The scene then where Mbenga kind of snaps and he tells Chapel, beam me up last second. He turns around, walks away from her, and they do this very cool guy doesn't look at explosion. They do this very CGI explosion behind Chapel that just frames everything beautifully. And but I thought it was pretty cool. Like you can tell, it's kind of cheesy, kind of dramatic, kind of CGI.
It's earned it.
I think they earned it by that point. Another beautiful earned thing from Mbenga. This rage builds up the entire episode. You have his initial reaction to Ra in sickbay. You have Ra grabbing his arm at the dinner. You have Mbenga holding his fist back when he wants to let it fly during Mokbara. When Ra comes to see him then at the end in sickbay, they crescendo it up quite strongly. He starts raising his voice at him. The hand thing, please leave me alone, he says. And so they crammed about as much justification as they could into this, and Ra definitely earned his spanking. So this line then that he delivers to him, he says, Kif didn't fight the hardest. Pregnant pause. It was Captain Release. So when he says that first line, that's when the less observant viewers or even your average viewer would start to realize, oh, Ra didn't kill him, Mbenga did. And then he gives, that's like the oh shit moment. You get a flashback to show the audience what happened. And then that line, I'm the Butcher of Jagal, which is like, oh, what a great climax. So M'Benga walks over to the table and he opens the case with the dagger. You know, you see the dagger. You think, oh, he's about to get it. Rob puts his hand on his shoulder. And that's all that I just, mentioned, all the justification. At this point, he could grab the dagger, turn around, plunge it into him, and everyone would think he's justified. But he gives him one more chance. He turns away with the dagger still in the case. And he starts to talk to him. And then you see through the opaque window, they're shoving each other back and forth. And that's finally when he does him in. The fact that they strain it so much before he breaks is beautiful. I want to ask you guys a question. Did General Dakra, did he want this? He said he was only ashamed of his cowardice, not of his killing. So did he provoke M'Benga to make him pay for his cowardice, to make him pay for his war crimes, or
no? He was a coward. He was also very full of himself. Like, he wanted to go and parade and tour the Federation, being like this. I am this defector. I am gonna be the honorless Patak, but I am secretly inside. But I'm gonna advocate and be this man of peace. Like, he was too self-centered, too egocentric to want that, I think.
What do you guys think?
I don't necessarily think it's a case of him seeking death. I think it's him being so self-centered, which is consistent with his characterization. He is so self-centered. The universe revolves around him. Everyone is like, whether it's like warlords on, Jagal who will die for him, or the Federation diplomats who are eating out of his hand, or the ensigns that are laughing at every one of his jokes. He thinks the world revolves around him. And he can't conceive of actually dying. He can't conceive that M'Benga will just take that dagger and eventually just do him in. Because that can't happen to me. I'm the main character. And I think he's so desperate for M'Benga to either absolve him or recognize him or give him the affirmation he needs.
We
He
see it as a
chases it
challenge
just
as
a
well.
little bit too far.
If I can make my greatest enemy become my friend, I'll be the greatest solution. It's
because he's living a lie essentially, and so if I can make M'Benga believe my lie, then it's not a lie anymore. Like the whole, it's almost a dark reflection on that line that Pelia gave Boimler. It's like, I pretended to be someone I wanted to be until eventually I became him, and it's almost like that's what kind of Raz was doing as well, where he wanted. So almost to a degree, I think, wanted to be this peace-loving man, but he wasn't. He couldn't, and he chased it too hard, and that's what got him killed. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think it's this town is too big, is not big enough for the two of us situation. Like, he realizes that Babs is the one person who knows his secret. So he's like, either I've got to kill Babs, or I've got to get him to kill me, because we can't both exist with this truth. Like, my fiction only works if everyone believes it. And you're the one person who knows it's not true. So either you join me, or I kill you, or you kill me. Suicide by Bab. Yeah.
So this last scene, then, Babs has got this great sort of fuck around and find out attitude, I feel, where Pike comes in as the captain, and M'Benga's like, he doesn't give a shit at this point. And it's not even like this feeling of justification. He's just like, I told you this would happen. It's like, he pushed me and he found out. And there's this great dynamic because he's like 12, 15 years younger than Pike. But he's got this sort of mixture of like amusement and bemusement at Pike's Federation cowboy naivete. Or scout, Boy Scout naivete. And even though he totally understands where Pike's coming from, he can't agree with it because he's lived a different life than Pike has. And so I think the age difference makes it a little bit more poignant for me. But I do like that scene. And then the only thing that I really don't like about this episode is the ending. It's a little bit clunky. It's a little bit.
Oh, Shai, we can hear you.
We're getting an echo with the. So he gives his log, which is nice, and I think they should have just ended it there. But then they give the sinister music and the flashing lights of the med bay, and I thought that was a little bit like too on the nose kind of thing. But that's really my only quibble. Idle, did I successfully talk you into the Mokbara scene, or do you think it was still just kind of silly?
I think that could have been telegraphed maybe a bit better, that maybe Babs trying to lose it, but it didn't feel connected. I mean, Mokbara has always been portrayed as like Worf's kind of Tai Chi. I've never seen it as like a combat thing. But then they said, full contact Mokbara, and they're kind of now doing this thing that looks nothing like it. They're just doing some sort of slap fight judo. I still don't think that was portrayed. Like you say, with all the cuts and the action, it wasn't. I don't know. It felt weird. It didn't feel like something Klingons would do.
Star Trek has always struggled with hand-to-hand combat action. They get it right in later seasons of Discovery.
The Michelle Yeoh effect.
Always...
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have one of the greatest action stars in the history of film and television. You up your game a little bit.
So, Shai, I think you said it best. This was not a perfect episode of Star Trek, but the quality was so high, it actually was perfect. Like, the faults don't really matter. It doesn't really matter for Oz, a good guy or bad guy. Certain things just don't matter in this story.
The imperfections are burned away.
It's my favorite episode of Star Trek, I think. Maybe
I love how much you love this episode and how much you love the Lower Decks episode. It increases my enjoyment listening to you squee about Lower Decks crossover and this episode.
It's always fun when you find a friend that has found something so amazing that has overwhelmed them, and I kind of love that energy. It's nice. It's cool. I love it. But yeah, I think that has bumped my rating up, just how much you enjoy it.
the writing and the directing is so superb.
Well.
Oh, it's a great episode. Absolutely. They go someplace, but they go where no Star Trek has gone before.
And the metaphor I made before we went live is it's kind of like a nice steak dinner. You can't have it every night. It's too heavy. But if you were on death row and you wanted one last meal, it would probably be a nice thick steak dinner. And this is like, if I could only watch one episode, not like on loop for the rest of my life, if I could only watch one episode, it might be this one. It's pretty fucking good.
There was a 6-month period in my life where I did have steak for dinner every night. It was great.
Jesus.
Bloody hell.
All right. Idle, what are our rankings?
Well, out of Clint Howard, how many Clint Howard Starship Trooper pastiches did we give this out of 10? Myself, I gave it a 9. 3, solid episode. Like it's up, like you say, it's up there with the good pantheons of Trek for moral dilemmas. Like, there's so many other ones we will be debating who is right for a long time, and a better constructed one than Tuvix is, certainly.
And you said you might bump it up?
I think... do you know what? I'm gonna, since you like this so much, I am swayed by you. I'll do you one more. I'll bump up to a 9.2. I will go decimal places, not just a 5 decimal. I'll go for a 2 decimal place to make you happy. Stars gave it, and you gave it a 9.8. Auto, of course, you gave it a 10. Shai, you gave it a 9. Our guest,
I'm gonna bump it. I'm bumping it up to 10.
You're gonna go 10, yeah. No,
yeah. I kept it at a 9 because the ensign scene I felt was weak, but as I corrected myself, it doesn't matter. Like, perfection is an illusion. The quality is so good. The scene with them both on the bio beds. He's on his broken one, the one that just works for now, but it's going to break every once in a while. It's going to break every once in a while. It's just too good.
It is good. And then we had Chat gave it a 9, and Frank gave it a 9.4. So yeah, this is solid Pantheon episode. Is there anything else you want to put in this, Auto?
That means...
Hang on. Because Auto, did you not want to give something to old Kivas for this?
Sorry. Yes, it is the...
Oh, hang on.
Kivas Fajo Jovi Trophy Room of Awesomeness.
You get your 3 seconds of that.
Star Trek.
I'm hereby inducting the second ever moment into the Kivas Fajo blah 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 of awesome. Just the line. You could put in the whole episode, but I'm putting the line. I am the butcher of Jugal. Dun dun dun.
Mic drop. Stab a Klingon. Walk away.
Get away with it.
and get away with it, and he'd do it again. Okay, next up,
we need to put this in a spreadsheet somewhere. By the way, all the Hall of Awesome moments.
Oh, we will. Yeah, we will do. That will be on public display, probably on our website somewhere.
Oh yeah, I wonder if Idle will make a spreadsheet.
Shocking.
Before breakfast, probably about 6. Okay, next one. Why are we singing Subspace Rhapsody? An accident with an experimental quantum probability field causes everyone on the USS Enterprise to break uncontrollably into song. But the real danger is that the field is expanding and beginning to impact other ships, allies and enemies alike. Talk about swinging for the fences, going from those old scientists through to Under the Cloak of War into the most probably I would probably say the most absurd episode of Star Trek to have ever existed, and I am now also including that new Skin the Cat very short trek in that list as well.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's very good.
Oh, you'll like it. It's good fun.
It's hilarious.
Okay.
But Subspace Rhapsody, wow. Yeah. This whole episode kind of, I feel like I said with those old scientists felt like an episode that was well crafted into being, didn't just serve like the nature of the title. They didn't just go like, right, we're gonna have some crossover and here's just a plot to serve the fun thing we're doing. Whereas this is the other, for myself, this felt like it was the other way around. This felt like, well, we're gonna do a singing episode. How can we justify it? Oh, they found an anomaly. Okay, there we go. That's that done. That was my big thing of this one. But guys, now you talk.
Look, the intermix chamber and the containment field are stable. I'll get to the warp core and assess its state when I'm able.
But he was
I'll do
able.
The entire fucking song.
He was able right there. He was standing right next to the warp core. He can't just do it when he's able. He's literally looking at the buttons.
Look,
how much time did we give?
I appeared to be singing.
How much time did we give this single episode review? Like 2.5 hours?
Something like that. We
went long one.
Because we went through each song.
We did do every song, yes.
In the interest,
I think the premise of this episode is really strong. Like it's a good story. Like just aside from the singing and the quality of the music, I think it's a good, solid Star Trek premise of an episode, and their technobabble explanations work to me.
It felt very Heart of Gold. It was very Hitchhiker's probability feel, like anything can happen because we've decided it's probable. Like it.
But that's physics. That's how.
Is it?
That's how it works.
Probability is physics, but I don't know. That stretched the technobabble for me for a little bit. It's just like, well, now they can just come across any dimension, anything. Oh wait, hang on, the Q. Never mind. I retract my argument.
Yeah.
It reminds me of one of my favorite jokes, where the guy was like, I put an infinite number of monkeys into a room with an infinite number of typewriters. And I went in a day later, and they weren't doing anything. They were just sitting there. Anything's popular. Anything's possible. So
okay. Apart from the absurdity, let's look at the main hooks of the plot and how the singing fits in. Because the one thing I didn't expect, when I heard they're doing a singing episode, I thought, okay, we're just going to get like a musical numbers and everyone's going to carry on and then we'll forget about it. But they wrapped the music into the plot in a way that Pike ends the first song by going, why are we singing? What's going on? And I found that...
Why are we singing?
Literally. That was... I'm still to this day, with me having learned every one of the songs and spent ages making reggae remixes, I'm still not sure how I sit on that. I still don't know how I feel. I know.
I love the swing so much.
Guess what? I'm just sitting here because the moment anyone asks me for my opinion, I will just start singing another one of the songs.
Oh, jeez. Okay, right, moving on. Right.
So don't ask me my opinion unless you want another part of the song.
I'll give my capsule review. Like you said, Shai, they put in the legwork, Treknobabbly for this one, so I'll give them props for that. I was afraid it wouldn't feel like it's a Star Trek episode. It does. It is a Star Trek episode. And like Root Beer, it is cloyingly growing. Even without having rewatched it, you hear snippets of a song here or there, or you think about it a little while longer, and it gets a little bit, it normalizes in your head a little bit. So, I don't hate it. I don't love it. And it hurts, like I said, it hurts coming off probably the best 2-episode stretch in Star Trek history. So, yeah.
Well,
so what you're saying is, with my new commission to a higher position, I should embrace my truths.
Oh, let's go with crack character moments then. Let's talk about the biggie, which is the Spock and Chapel breakup. Essentially, which is what happened this episode, with Spock essentially catching Chapel out a little bit by saying, well, "What have you got?" Her going over to see, "Oh, Mr. Roger Corby," and we know what happens there.
Well, I think they have the two best songs for me, her song and then the reprise of her song in the form of On the X.
Exactly, the exact same song.
Like, I think those are the two best numbers in the.
Do you really? Those two?
Other
That's
than,
interesting.
Of course, the Klingon disco boy band, of course, of course, is the pinnacle of.
It's so weird.
High art.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about this.
Could they have
without talking
done
about the music? But yeah, go on.
Could they have rhymed bye without getting sued? Like if they said fly or something, could they? You think they could have pulled that off?
I think there's exceptions for parody.
Yeah,
there's
you
fair
can't
use.
copyright. It's parody and there's fair use. You could also, because if you don't own a chord structure or a lyric, you can't.
No, thank you, Vanilla Rice.
Well, also I was going to think of Hootie and the Blowfish, but yeah, also. Like that just quotes like half of Bob Dylan's song in the fucking lyrics. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love this episode, but it needed better songs, needed way better choreography, and better cinematography to go with that choreography.
I honestly think it's one of those instances where, like, this is the best you could have possibly done on this budget, this time scale, this talent.
Yeah, right.
If you gave this exact same team double the amount of time, double the budget, double the amount of, whatever, then yes, you would have a 2-hour extravaganza that would include a Science Patter song. It would have a Jim and Sam antagonism song.
God.
It would have a montage of all the Federation fleet singing and being annoyed at each other. It would have Admiral April singing. It would have an entire Klingon opera song. Exactly, and you would have a setup for why they are so dishonored, because they keep on trying to do opera, but they keep on making the boy bands. Right. You would have all of this in a 2-hour extravaganza. If this was being made by Shai and his wonderful crew of musical compatriots, guess what? That's what you get. But this is a 1-hour slot that they had to justify bringing in actual songwriters.
Like 10 songs in there in 1 hour. It's pretty.
I'm sorry, did you say 1 hour slot?
It's impressive.
Slot.
No, stop it.
1 hour
slot. No, the moxie on these showrunners and the writers' room to do this before season 1 has premiered, because they're shooting season 2 before season 1 is even it
was in the bag. It was done.
Finished. And they were just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna go for it.
You can't stop it. It's in the budget already.
Do it.
Yeah.
So was the only song that had any kind of real choreography by the vocal leads, was that Chapel's? Was that the only one that had?
Una and Kirk's number had a bit of dancing in it. Yeah. They were spinning around.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that
big musical number, like an ensemble.
Well, there's also We Are One, because it has all the dancing.
Chapel's
at the end.
I'm Ready. It had a massive amount of dancing in it.
Chapel's song in the finale.
Should they have done more choreography with these?
Yes, but it's limited by the sets and also the time. Choreography is hard.
Also, dancing is mostly pointless.
But the problem was also the types of songs, and we all right.
Why don't we just cut the arts from the schools, Idol? Why don't we just have everyone play football when they grow up?
We addressed this during our episode review, because they're all monologue songs. They're all internal monologue songs, which don't lend themselves to a lot of choreography, right? They have to have each crew member having their "this is my dilemma that I'm going to sing about," and So.
Well, it's brought about because they did justify that quite well by saying, the songs are only triggered by emotional responses. So this is how we bring, and that's the culmination of the point in the finale. So Spock's song, Chapel's song, even Uhura's revelation, hers, keep us connected, about her talking about her past and how it's brought us here and her role on the ship now to keep us connected, was an emotional outburst. And that was quite a nice way of connecting those songs together, which I thought was actually quite clever.
Right. But in musicals, right, like the rumination songs are usually ballads, and then I have a decision to make, I'm going to make that decision. Those are the big musical dance numbers. Chapel's number is I'm ready, let's go. Like that's why that's appropriate for a big musical number. The song at the end is a decision song, so that also
is Andrew Lloyd Webber from the musical universe? Do you think this is how it happened?
Yes.
He came out out with Cats. He stepped through the threshold.
No, it's Cole Porter. The song they play is Cole Porter.
There you go.
So even more than the music to me, the one thing that stuck in my craw was Pike passing the buck on the inspiring stuff. Uhura had all of episode 6. She had Hero Worship in episode 7. We're just coming off her big song, which I think was the longest.
Yeah.
Of them. It was over 4 minutes. And then we need someone to inspire the whole crew to sing like they've never sang before. Well, let's have the ensign, who some people don't know yet. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it should have been a misdirect. He should have said, "You do this," and then started slipping into like a patter song for himself against his will. Like he should have been miserable about it.
If it was Kirk, that would have been perfect. That would have worked for Kirk.
Dude, Kirk doing Shatner doing stuff against Kirk's will is some of the best acting you'll ever see. Like when he struts, Dr. McCoy, I must compliment you on the state of your captain's body. It's in excellent condition. And he's so to breathe again, to feel again. It's so, dude.
I did that on stage in Con the Musical. I did the breathe again move like
did you really?
For one scene change. I don't know if anyone ever noticed it. It was just for me.
Oh.
Every night I did it.
Awesome.
So good. What did we give this episode, Idle?
Let's have a look. We gave it out of private conversation. This is a private conversation about our frustration, about our frustrations. Out of 10, I gave it a 6. I'm going to boost up to a 7.2 just purely because, I did enjoy it. Yeah, I have done lots with the music and I've just been obsessed with it for a little bit, even though I'm not particularly keen on the songs. But because it's Star Trek and it's musical, okay, fine, I'll bite the bullet and give it a better rating than what I should have. Stars, you gave it a 9. What stopped it being a 10 for you?
It's just a case of you guys kind of like I pointed out. Yeah, some of these songs are very similar. There's not enough like variety in how they're structured and who they are to and from and by. There's a few missed opportunities here. Yeah, the Pike thing is a little bit odd in context. Like small things here, but overall, like the actual joy I have of watching this episode. Like this was one of the episodes I chose to rewatch ahead of this review, and I was like, this was a good use of my time. I was happy with it. I like it. These songs are great.
Auto, you gave it a 3.8.
Oof.
Down. And Sean, you gave it an 8. You were
I'm tacking on a half point. It is a 4.3 now.
A 4.3.
Without even rewatching it, it has marinated in my head, percolated, and
marinated.
If we ask you in like 3 years, you'll give it like a 7.
It'll be a 12 in 3 years. It's exponential.
We're changing
growth.
the warp scale, are we?
Yeah.
That's right. I'll stick with 8.
Yeah.
I'll stick with 8. I mean, the degree of difficulty in this was off the chart. Really, it should be a 9, my rating, but my problems with the lack of...
You have extremely high standards, to be fair, and you should.
You should.
Nerd, so... musical theater nerd, so here we go.
Musical
8.
Nerd. Okay, moving on to our final episode in this now going on for 3.5 hour review of the season.
We warned y'all.
Hegemony. When the USS Enterprise investigates an attack on a colony at the edge of Federation space, Captain Pike and his crew face the return of a formidable enemy. We are gone back to the season 1 plot with the Gorn. The alien ripoff gone too far, or good reimagining?
Romulan plot, a ploy to start a war
of the classic race. What do you think? And also we bring up the point of Pike's hesitation, but let's talk about the Gorn first. What do you think, guys? Do you think, literally, as I just said, do you think this is too much Alien? Do you think this is a good take? Because we've got to say this is now canon reimagining. We've broken canon to the point where, okay, the Federation know who the Gorn are. This isn't an unknown species as the Metrons sort of kind of went. Well, because the Metrons kind of went, here's a species you haven't met before, and here's one, and the Spock didn't know who they were on the bridge. He wasn't, despite the fact that now he's killed one, literally shoved a pole.
Because they've never seen this iteration of Gorn. They've never seen the brain Gorn before. They've only seen the creepy, crawly bug hunt.
Yeah. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying, like, you know, you're going to reimagine things, go whole hog if you're going to do it. I know a lot of people say that they would rather it just been a completely new race or someone maybe a little less familiar, but yeah, there we go. So, Auto, what do you, like I say, like, why do you think they should be more...
I'm a massive hypocrite, because all the Orion stuff in episode 7 that I said, great, let's not make them a monolith, let's, you know, show these other sides of them, and Stars are going to talk on that in a second. I just don't care. I don't want Gorn. Like, it's just, you made a bad pick for your show. Like, to pick the goofiest alien in the galaxy. Maybe they took it as like a personal challenge. Like, who's the goofiest alien in Star Trek? Oh, the guy that moves at the speed of smell. Let's have them be the imposing alien bad guys for multiple seasons. I'm not picking up what they're putting down, as they say. It just doesn't work for me. And there's a lot of ways you could go with it. You could make it work. You could make it make more sense and gel a little better. But I think the effort should be put in somewhere else. Wait, can you do the fight scene with it? The slow, the chop, and the double hand axe handle.
Do you have a very tiny puppet Kirk?
Oh, he's got the rock.
Look, there's just species variation, right? They can have 2 different kind of Gorn.
Is that like an off-color
You're
body?
planted.
Dude, did you win that at like the fair or something?
Yeah, exactly. I shot the star out.
Nice. Yeah, so in regards to the Gorn, yeah, it really does just go back to my points in the series review. I need to see a adult tactical Gorn who is smart, who is, you know, intelligent and cultured in his Gorn way, who is utterly alien. I need to be charmed and intimidated. I need to see his point of view. I need to be able to take this enemy force seriously in the exact same way that, say, Kang or Koloth in TOS made me take the Klingon seriously, or the way that the Romulan commander made me take the Romulans seriously. I need a figurehead. I need someone with a name. I need someone who sits on a bridge and gives orders and makes the Gorn civilization make sense. I need that gentleman there to open his mouth, and I need him to sound appropriately threatening and reptilian. I need that. Otherwise, all the promises in regards to the Gorn have fallen through, essentially.
Yeah, I think that easily happens. I think that very easily happens.
Yeah, totally.
In 2 years, when we get season 3.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like this point is more a blemish on the series than on this particular episode. Because for the episode itself, I think it works fine. They're a good enough bad guy, and it makes sense. And it does actually. I kind of really like the aesthetic, even though it makes no sense that they have these like burn barrels all set up randomly, and then it's a little bit of horror and like the blood spatter everywhere. It looks like a level of a video game. I do like it. It's almost like guilty pleasure levels of, because when it pops up alien-esque and hisses at Batel, it's like, that's so goofy, but
Alien
you know,
3,
I'll give it a pass. I just kind of like the whole aesthetic of the episode. I think it works well.
Yeah, they ripped off Alien a little too much with the Gorn, like especially the Sigourney Weaver shot of you know, her being like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's because and then you're like, and it gives it away because you're like, oh, she has.
That's why,
infected, right? Like,
because it's not even that you're taking the moment and putting a spin on it. You're taking the moment and you're playing it exactly as it was in the original source material. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing is, I'm making these provisos. I totally have faith that that's the plan for season 3. Is that with season 3, episode 1 is going to open with a big opener of the prisoners from the Enterprise and the colonists, and there's going to be Gorn with names who are going to talk to each other, and it's going to snap it onto sense. But I cannot judge this episode based on what I assume season 3 episode 1 is going to be. There's a problem with rating any 2-parter when you don't know what the second part's like. If you ask me what my opinion on Best of Both Worlds Part 1 is, guess what? It's really pretty good. I don't know what's part second. I don't know how they're going to resolve it. That's really going to affect my rating, isn't it?
Have they released the second part of that in England yet?
No, we're still waiting.
No, we're still waiting.
The VHS is on its way, they promised.
I promise.
So the three words you said encapsulate, I have faith. These guys can do whatever they want. And even if they have something that I don't like as a clunker, I'm buckled in for the whole season, for the whole series, because I know there's going to be some good shit coming.
So when it's this guy and Cybok
oh, fuck, I forgot
together.
Cyborg. He wasn't even in this
That's
season.
not even you guys talking about this shit in the first half hour.
They're sitting on Cybok. They're sitting on Cybok. They just.
That's my overall closing criticism of the season. You tease Cybok at the end of season 1, and then nothing.
Nah, you know what that is? That is like, we're doing season 1 and 2 back to back. We're not going to have like a chance to course correct. Throw it out the wall and see what the internet says after we're done. And then everyone was like, "Wait, you're bringing back Cyborg? Oh, you could actually do it cool." And they're like, "Okay, cool. We're done for season 3."
Yeah.
That's
they
not
were
just
not going to
Chekhov's
go all
gun.
in.
That's not Chekhov's gun. That's the entire cherry orchard that you just like left sitting out there.
I just looked it up. Lawrence Luckinbill, Spring Chicken at 88 years young. He may reprise the role. You never know.
I was just about
Have
to
him
say,
play a god that Cyborg kills on his way out of prison.
I was just about to say he can play Cyborg's dad, but that's Sarek, so I can't do that. He can't even do. He can play his granddad.
Okay, but if we can we get James Frame back for a Cyborg Sarek confrontation? I feel like I've been wanting that since 1988. Can we get that? Any excuse to get James Frame back? He's fucking great.
Yeah.
Dude, they got Mandy. What's her name? Amanda Grayson.
Yeah.
Mia Kirshner, yeah.
Mia
Yeah,
Kirshner,
Kirshner,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the Gorn.
This episode had so many like weird threads in it. Not weird, but like so many disparate. You had Scotty show up, which is going to tie into a lot of stuff. You had Pike Patel sort of come to a head, not really come to a head, kind of come to a head. Great stuff once again. Those two just ricochet off each other whenever they're together, especially this season. You had the intense comedy of the fucking demarcation line that they could have just like moved over the planet and they would have been safe. That is still like our favorite joke.
Doing a demarcation line through the middle of a solar system is just dumb as fuck. Like, okay, outside maybe, but like...
Okay, but like, guess what? That's how real life demarcation lines. They don't give a fuck what's actually there. They're
but on our planet, the countries don't move around a sun. Like they don't. Like the planet's there, and then suddenly it'll just go round this line, like this.
No, the line rotates with it. It's okay.
This is the exact same like universe that had like the fucking dumbass Federation treaty with the Cardassians when we could have spanked their asses any time we wanted. So like, guess what? Weird border negotiations is a thing.
That's just the art of the impossible. It's politics.
The Spock Chapel stuff. Like, it was visually stunning, all the stuff in space, and then the sort of slow-mo combat. A little more of that horror where Spock hears the thing pop up behind him and hiss, but he knows he's in slow-mo, so he's got to, like, make his move very carefully. It's so...
It was good.
That's really great stuff. What else do we have?
I never like when they do fake tension. Like they go and everyone's crying on the bridge. They're like, oh no, Chapel's dead because she's blown up on the Cayuga, and I'm like, no, she's not. We know this. I get that you need to see an emotional response from the cast, but it's going to be resolved in about 10 minutes anyway. So it's kind of a little bit of wasted time, maybe. I don't know.
What do you feel about Pike's future written in stone kind of tension?
See, that's.
Because I think there's a lot of play between here and there,
you're right, yeah.
and I think that the tension still works for me. Is it just the will they die kind of tension is too cheap because you know they're still alive, or what?
It's because they're it's the conceit that we know their main cast and Chapel doesn't die. Like it's not. This isn't just plot armor. This is super plot armor of like unless they clone her and kill the clone on the Cayuga. Like this is. It's not a...
It's a Sim Tucker kind of deal.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you can read it coming a mile away, and I'm just like, I'm not... like, unless you're a brand new Star Trek fan, it has no impact. But that's just me. I'm a heartless bastard.
I can understand that. But it's still a case of, like, you have to do the emotional legwork, otherwise these characters act like weird robots. Like, that's the ultimate thing is I need to see them acting...
Like when Data died in the Most Toys. No one really cared apart from Geordi.
Okay, before we wrap it up, let's get back to my dumb conspiracy theory. Is Pike losing his grit, his ability to lead confidently? What was it, like 31 second pregnant pause from the time they ask him for orders, and then they keep prompting him for orders. He doesn't know what to do.
I like to think he looks around, it's lots of pan cuts. There's one of Pike looking at that, and then he looks at Uhura, and she's like, I don't know. Then it cuts back to Pike, and he looks at someone else, looks at Ortega, so she's like, I don't know. It's just lots of back and forth there, isn't there? A lot of cuts and stuff.
Is it just a dramatic cliffhanger, season ender, or is there more to it?
I think he's discombobulated by the fact that his love is infected and like pretty much doomed to die.
Love makes him weak.
That's right. That's the message.
Women weaken legs.
Exactly.
It's a combination of things. You know, he's gone through a crisis with Battelle now in isolation. He's got his crew members that have been beamed up onto a Borg ship. He's had his faith shaken a bit, like you mentioned during the Lotus Eaters episode. He's had his faith in himself shaken a little bit. He's had a lot of hits this episode, a lot of hits this season that have not just impacted the whole future of him, because he knows his fate, but he's more worried about the decisions he makes that impact other people's fate. And I think the hesitation's real. I don't think it's built up for a dramatic pause, because I think the build up for dramatic pause is more like the end of the Best of Both Worlds, where you have that slow crescendo coming in before a decision is made, and you have the fire. You have the action that is made, and you wait to see the consequence. This is waiting to see a consequence of something he hasn't decided yet. And you see the panic in his eyes. You do see it as he looks undecided. He looks like he's out of his element.
Yeah. Look, Pike's not Kirk, right? He's not the warrior. He's not the cold warrior.
And that was established in the Quality of Mercy, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's right. He's a diplomacy guy, right? So this is not fully his element. He's a
capable commander, but he's not Cisco. He's not Cisco at all.
Just like, I just bomb him.
He's thinking, how can I negotiate with the Gorn? He even has that scene earlier. It's like, did we make a mistake with the way we were approaching the Gorn? Should we be trying to reach out to them? And maybe this is a Vulcan below situation.
They've been very careful not to like shoot ship to ship, as far as I'm aware. Like they've been like, do I fire back? Because it's like, okay, one or two Gorn on the street. Especially if they're hatchlings, okay, maybe we can smooth that over. Okay, yeah, you kill the Gorn on the bridge of the Cayuga, that's fine, we can smooth that over. If I fire on their ship and I start, lighting them up, what do I do then? Because I am technically, according to the international law, according to what April told me, I will be in the wrong here. Even though I know I should do the right thing. And it's like... For a guy like Pike, that matters a lot more than it does to Kirk, who's like, fuck it, I'll do whatever. I'll do what I think is right.
Is April going to become the guy where he dresses everyone down and warns them, but no one takes them seriously and does whatever they want anyways?
Just get hung over the
Klingons. We got that
eventually.
half-ass dressing down of Spock in episode 1. And he keeps dressing down like Pike, but, Pike doesn't care, so...
we need to see some consequences. I'd be interested.
I've got this Brooklyn Nine-Nine Rosa Diaz meme where it's like, I've had Marie Battelle for 5 minutes, and if she dies, I'll kill everyone around me and then kill myself.
Yeah.
They better not take... they're probably just going to do it for that cheap heat, get the gut punch to Pike, have him have some crisis because they killed her off, but just don't do it. Let someone be happy for once, They're great together. She's great. Let's let her have a few more seasons at least.
I think it's a much smarter choice to let her live through this, because that means that Pike has had to deal with the entire the tension, and it's way harder and more interesting for him to have to deal with the tension of, I'm in a relationship with someone who doesn't know I'm going to be that's way more interesting. It's way more interesting for him to have to deal with that tension and his kind of unfair expectation of what she's going to do after his accident than to just kill her off for a cheap thing.
I hope that
the hate fair face.
In the writer's room, if anyone asks that rhetorical question, or say he needs to learn to face losing someone, I hope someone slaps him and says he's trying to face how to lose himself. He doesn't need that extra added pressure from outside too. He's got enough internal conflict for everyone.
What did we give this episode, Idle?
Well, just one last thing. The real last meat of the episode is the introduction of Montgomery Scott out of the blue, stranded on the planet.
Don't you yawn? You're in the U.S. shy. Come on.
This is nap time.
He's an older man. The show puts him to sleep.
That's true.
Montgomery Scott is now aboard the Enterprise in another display of, hey, are we making a TOS prequel that directly leads into it? Do we feel it nice and refreshing that now Scotty is actually played by an actual Scottish person? I know I've made that joke so many times. It's not applicable, really, but there it is. How do we feel about now we are one more crew towards having a full TOS reboot?
It feels like a countdown of sorts, doesn't it?
Does.
Like,
yeah,
like I'm expecting to get Bones next season, and then like Sulu the next season or something.
Got Piper first. Got Piper before Bones.
Give me back Boyce, goddammit.
Yeah, Boyce was a legend. Played by Jeffrey Combs. There it is.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be down.
Dude, he's the right age.
Everybody wants that. Everybody wants that.
No, but
by the way, so this is completely unrelated to anything. Did you see that if they had had more episodes this season, they would have tried to pull on the Prime Lorca thread?
Oh, really? Oh. Well, they say that
apparently
every
that was
year.
confirmed in an interview.
Was it Jason Isaacs that was saying that? Because I feel like he
Let
gave
me
once
see the
he
exact
comes
thing, because all I saw... Yeah.
like a Prime Lorca still out there.
You know, I want... What is that? Hold on. You keep talking amongst yourselves.
So I liked Scott.
Always.
I thought he was good.
I mean, Pike is aware of the mirror universe, right? Like, what mirror universe?
He is, yeah.
As he said on Discovery, right? So
with a wink. But then he might have turned to Una and gone, what mirror universe, Ed? What was she talking about?
I feel like every Star Trek cast loves a mirror universe episode. Like, it's got to be so much fun.
Give you a chance to cut loose.
The Giorgio Mirror one in season 3 was so good. It was really good because it got like
it was really good character
was
work.
just like great as Mira Burnham. She was just like, yeah, I'm gonna camp this up.
Man, she did such good work.
I gotta twirl that mustache so bad.
Okay, so if they bring in Jason Isaacs, I need a shirtless Gascana match between Jason Isaacs, Babs, Anson, and Ethan Peck. 2-on-2 shirtless Gascana match. I think that should be the first 3 episodes.
You know Clancy Brown would come back for that.
Probably.
He's a big name now. But yeah, so any thoughts on Scotty on this last episode before we finally wrap up this near 4-hour episode?
See, the thing is, like, I would mind it more if he wasn't like charming in his role, if he wasn't like credible, if they weren't making the effort to make him feel like he is properly Scotty. I like him. He's charming.
Here's the thing. Like, if you'd have said to me at the start of season 1, like when they announced Kirk, and I was a bit like, oh, really? You know, everyone was a bit like, really? You're going to do this now? If I hadn't seen them treat Uhura really well, treat Chapel really well by giving them backstories and do some good service towards Kirk despite, you know, various opinions, and now they bring in Scotty and doing well with him, I am now like, well, okay, yeah, it does feel really soon to start building up this TOS cast when we've still got these established characters like Una and Ortegas that we want to get involved, but they are doing really well with them. That makes me think, like, yeah, I do want to see that, but just maybe in like a few years' time, maybe just put off a little bit, get your stories written down and all your character development that you've done such good work on these existing legacy characters, but we want to see more of these other people.
This is going to be one of my overarching season points, but since we're on it now, give me a brief. Do you want the TOS spinoff? And if you do, how are you going to handle the next couple years as whoever pulls the purse strings for Paramount?
For me,
go ahead, Stars. If you know what you want.
Well, I was going to say that, like, Anson Mount does not want to do this forever. Like, it's a case of, like, he's getting on a little bit. Like, he obviously is still an absolute silver fox. He's not slowed down at all. But it's a case of, like, you know, no one wants to be working away from their family forever, because that was always a concern. That was always a consideration when it came to this series. And if I can get like 50 episodes of Strange New Worlds featuring Pike and all that, and then like it's okay, we're done. We're gonna do, you know, Those Old Scientists season 1, and then we have, you know, Paul Wesley, and we have you know, Celia Rose Gooding, and we have whoever they find to try and match Carl Urban's Bones energy. I'll be like,
dude, get Carl Urban. Fucking.
Oh, dude,
he was great.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's the best. He's fucking perfect and everything. If I hadn't seen them do such a incredibly satisfying job with literally every single legacy character, like, I know you have your considerations about Kirk, but it's more just a case of, like, he could be a bit more of this, a bit more of that. It's like, he's not, like, offensive to the character, you know? Not like Khan was in fucking Into Darkness. Like, these are done well enough, and these writers seem to feel that they have stories that they want to tell with it. And speaking of someone who has done writing, and like sometimes you just want to write a story about a character, and it's like, yeah, it's drawing away from these other characters, but I want to write that story. And it's like, if they feel like they have stories that they can tell that they think are satisfying and interesting, let them do it. Like, obviously, give me as much Pike as you can fucking shove in my goddamn whore mouth. I love that man. I will follow him to the ends of the earth. I will follow him into the mirror universe. But, like, if Anson Mount, like, wants a built-in escape plan... Oh. Well... Yeah, make fucking Mbenga the captain of the Enterprise. Like, if you want to, like, you know, do 5 seasons of Stranger Worlds and everyone says, cool, I'm kind of good, and then you move on to TOS, like, you know, season 0, I'm fine with it. Like... If they hadn't earned my faith by putting out consistently good episodes, I'd be more worried. But, like, if they want to do 5 seasons of Stranger Worlds and then go to TOS season 0, fine. I'm happy with it. I like these characters. I like these. I like this style. It was something I realized when I was watching episodes 5, 7, and 9 yesterday. But, like, even just the retro futurism look for this show just is so charming. Because I was looking at the way that... Melissa Navia's like hair was styled almost 50s, like 60s greasery almost in some shots. And then like the way that Mbenga has that like classic 60s like Sidney Poitier like look to his hair and the way his sidebone, everything about this just perfectly encapsulates what I like and I find charming about 60s Star Trek, and it jetsons all the stuff I don't like. I can't say no to more of it in any form that it comes. So that's my ultimate feeling on it.
All right, Shai, how will you handle it? Do you want this, and how do you handle it?
I mean, I don't want a retcon of, like, you know, because till now you can use your imagination to fit OS into this continuity, right? You know, Starfleet changes their uniforms and ship designs like every 6 months because they can, because replicators just allow interior designers to go hog wild all the time. So I wouldn't want them to like redo the 3 years of the TOS era. I wouldn't mind like an immediate prequel to you know, the TOS premiere Mantrap. Like, yeah, you know, because there's nothing in Mantrap that says this is like our first 2 weeks of being.
Well, isn't
exactly.
It's where no one's come before. Is the chronologically first one, isn't it? Mantrap's just the first aired, but I believe they showed them out of order. Quote me if I'm wrong.
Right. Yeah. But like it's there's nothing.
Sorry, being pedantic.
Does it say?
There's nothing in either of them. Yeah.
No.
Does it say in that episode like, you know, I've been captain of the ship for 6 months or anything? No. So we don't actually know how far into the 5-year mission.
And Kirk and Spock are good friends at that point, aren't they? So like,
the show 24 can do 24 episodes in 1 day. So even if they've been captain for like a week, they could do like 10 years of, whatever. Exactly. If they really want to.
They even said in Strange New Worlds, like 1 season doesn't have to equal a year. It doesn't have to work like that.
Yeah. And, first, also back to the point of how long. I think Anson Mount did Hell on Wheels for 5 seasons. Mm-hmm. And I think those are more episodes of that show than are of this show. And actors like to eat, right? A TV series is every actor wants a TV series because it's steady income. You get residuals for the rest of your life. Like, and he seems to be having a ball with this. I don't think he's in any hurry to get off this show. He just wanted to spend some time with his newborn. But, newborns eventually become 2-year-olds, and you want to get the hell away from them. And no better way to do that than be like
10 episodes of Pike.
Suddenly, Strange New World season 4 scoops up to like 15 episodes because he just doesn't want to be around his kid.
Yeah. I'm all they, like you said, they've been handling the introduction of all the legacy characters like really, really well. I'm looking forward to Astro Science's Sulu to come in.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Like sciencing, and then they just do like a little flight simulator battle with Ortega's, and he wipes the floor with her, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not really a pilot. I just got to do this for fun." And he goes off like back to Astro Science. She's like, "What happened?"
Yeah, just do the fucking strategy of a game, but it's piloting simulator.
Scenes from a hat mode. He guns her down and he just shouts, "Excelsior!" Anyway, sorry.
All All right, Idle. Do you want a TOS spinoff with all the characters they've introduced? How would you handle it? When are you ending Strange New Worlds, etc.?
When am I ending Strange New Worlds? Never. But I don't want them to do
7 seasons.
I don't want them to do another rehash at the expense of other shows. Like, I would rather them do new things like Legacy or more Prodigy, if that happens, or things along those lines of explore, or Starfleet Academy even, depending on Promise. I would like them exploring more avenues of what is already a rich universe with gaps that need to be filled with their budget, with the limited budget, because they've already said they can't do all the shows they want to, because you can't run 15 shows at once. There's not enough money. I would rather they did that than run stuff we've seen before. I would like them to cap off the end of Strange New Worlds, season 7 or whatever, with their full cast of TOS crew ready to go off on their adventure, and then that's it. These guys don't have contracts, but I imagine there will probably be a fan campaign somewhere that asks for it. But I would rather say, do that. Okay, we're moving on to projects. We're doing Deep Space 32, set in the year 2685 and whatever.
Yeah, look, if they do TOS, go to Ticonderoga, buy the set from those guys, and fucking match. It's gonna match exactly.
Oh, a purist.
Yeah, and you go to the refit. You go refit. They're like, oh, we got this mid-century modern guy. He's just going retro with everything. We've doubled the crew capacity. We've doubled the equipment on the ship. Everything's smaller. You're just having to deal with it, and that's just how you do it.
Yeah, we've taken out those windows on the saucer plate. You didn't need them. What do you need to see anyway? It's just all black. Yeah, come on.
Yeah. We've had too many people blowing out those windows.
Yeah.
Transparent aluminum isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Look at the size of this engineer. Do you need all this space? You don't need all this space. What's this big glowing thing? Get that out of here. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
So if this is not realistic. I'm going to fantasy book though for a second because this could be a lot of fun. Give them their 5 to 9 seasons of Strange New Worlds.
9, yes.
I think
I'm
9.
for it.
They're doing 10 episode seasons. You can go lot longer without burnout than you could when you're doing. Burnout for the audience too. Than when you were doing 26, even like Twilight Zone did like 39 episodes in a year or whatever.
So 10 seasons. Hit that 100 episodes.
Right, 11
episodes.
11 seasons, and then after they finish their 12th season, we can move on. No,
it's like Supernatural. Supernatural just never
when you
died.
finish on the 15th season of Strange New Worlds, then yeah.
But give them what it is. Well, I give it a big range because what I want to see after that is 2 parallel series. I don't want TOS. I really don't. We had TOS. I want 2 parallel series, and on one I want Kirk, Spock, and Uhura. On the other one, I want Bones, Sulu, and Chekhov. And we can have parallel, shows running. Sometimes they cross over, sometimes they don't. See how everyone develops on their own. And then at the end of those 2 runs, they come together for what would then be TOS. And I think that way you give everyone room to breathe. You're not stomping on anyone's toes. You can still add new characters. And it's really important to have characters you can kill off in a show because it adds a lot of tension. You don't need to kill them off, but they have to be able to be killed off. So I think with the 2 separate shows, you can introduce a lot of new characters like Ortegas and Lon and whoever else, and still add that. So I guess then the big issue with the time scale is how old is too old for them to start that. So maybe they ended after Strange New Worlds after season 5. Maybe they go longer because everyone's feeling it. So, but that's kind of what. And then because Prodigy is gone, Discovery is going to be gone. Lower Decks, I don't know. They could do that for quite a long time, but they're after this big boom now, the big swell, we're kind of contracting a bit, and I think there's room now for them to do 2 concurrent shows. I think would be a fun experiment.
It'll all depend on the strikes, won't it? This is the real sort of pinch point right now, isn't it? So that'll be where it is.
Did we ever finish up episode 10 here?
No,
put a
but I think we
capstone
kind of have, haven't we?
It's hard to because it's a to be continued.
It is a to be
You
continued.
can't really judge.
I did ask for our rankings, so then we kind of size.
Yeah, give us the ratings.
The ratings. How many out of how many Lagrange points? I gave it an 8 points. No, I didn't. I gave it a 7. Stars, you gave it a 6. Auto gave it a 7.9. What do you want to give it, Shy?
I think it was a strong one.
I'll give it a cautionary 8, depending. It really depends on how the second half is. The setup is fine, but it really depends on how the second half is.
Yeah. I'll bump it up to a 7. I feel like 6 was maybe a bit unfair. Yeah, I think a 7 is more representative of how I feel about it.
Cool. So, okay, well, if you're interested, overall for season 2, because I love these numbers, For season 2, I've given season 3 an 8.3. Stars, you've given it an 8.7. Auto's a 7.3. And Shy, you've given it an 8.5. So Shy loves Strangely Worlds the best of all. Overall, 8.1 is a season.
I like Trek more than all of you.
Exactly.
I think we've established this.
Wait, didn't you say I got 8.7 and he got 8.5?
It's average. Wait, what? No, hang on. I can't remember now. I've scrolled too far. I said what I said. Which means we've now scored...
You said I had an average of 8.7. You said that Shy had an average of 8.5.
Yeah, but your median number is lower because you ranked some like super low.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, there you go.
I don't think I dipped below a 7.
Okay.
Oh, so my average is higher, so I love Strangely Worlds more. Cool, got it.
Okay.
Look,
You like
I
bad
give
music?
something like a 1.4, and it's still like a great average.
But it does mean...
Dude, I'm really excited though about not just this season, but what it sets up for the future. Because you have to, after watching some of these, you have to have absolute trust in these guys.
Yeah,
They've
The
earned
fact
it.
that they took these wild swings and pretty much all of them worked. Like, how often does that happen?
well,
Very idle. Back to the numbers.
it's fine. All I was going to say is we ranked Strangely Worlds season 1 at 8. Season 2 at 8.1. This was 0.1.
I do think it was
Better.
Yeah, a little. Did you actually think? Yeah, it's interesting.
It's better.
The highs are higher.
I know we're all tired. I want to do one overall topic before we wrap up, though. We can do a little round table. Give me your actor of the season.
Ooh.
And it doesn't need to, even if it's like T'Pring, even if it's just whatever they had to work with. Who handled it the best?
It's Babs because I love Ethan Peck's comedy. He's batting it. He's throwing such heat on this, but Babs was so strong in his featured episodes, and then he gets the throwing a little like a, I do not want to be a bunny. So yeah, I'll go with Babs.
I'm gonna go for Jess Bush. I think that she does a lot of really good, really strong work. Then it's just consistently excellent. Stuff like, the look in her eyes after she leaves Spock's quarters and giving him the genetic treatment. The way she looks when she's saying the final lines of, I'm ready. It's like, if I have to leave you, I won't fight it. And she looks like she can't believe she said that herself. Like selling like the quiet terror in episode 10.
Red alarm.
Armored Kong, thank you for following. Thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah, she just does excellent work every time. I've never been disappointed with her, whether it's comedy, whether it's drama, whether I need to just, like stare at her and be like, why can't you and Spock be together? Then guess what? It's Jess Bush every time. I love her. She's great.
Should she have stuck with Australian accent? Like, would that have bothered anyone?
I wouldn't have minded. She's Australian, yeah. You wouldn't know.
No, but did she have one at some point in the show?
No,
but the
you meant stuck like you meant, okay,
yeah.
right.
Right.
I don't know.
Like if you can swap like white to black, why can't you let someone keep their accent?
She's a vocal chameleon.
Idol.
I mean, I want someone to look at me the same way that Christina Chong looks at Paul Wesley. So, it's definitely Christina Chong. Like, she was outstanding this season. Like, a full range of just vulnerability to strict.
Guess
and then
what?
her singing in Subspace Rhapsody.
The nuclear blast of it might feel good.
Yeah,
to let go.
Yeah, it'll just go through as that was Christina Chong as my actor of the season, definitely.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, it's Christine. Jess is a close second. She did a lot of really great work, and for a single episode, Babs all day, day, and it's almost to the point where, kind of like his episode, it's not perfect, but so damn good it is perfect. Like, he may have only had one kind of big meaty episode, but it was so good it
when you've got that batting average,
cast a long shadow. But it is Christina Chong. Everything she touched was compelling. She gives you, the little butterflies in your stomach when she's interacting with Paul Wesley. She almost single-handedly saved Tomorrow from being absolute garbage, but it still is. So even the bad stuff that she's in, she's the highlight. And when she's in good stuff, she's also the highlight. So Sorry for the motorcycle. She's great,
Nice.
and like I said, that the big 3 points that she hits that are kind of disparate: the vulnerability, the intimidation, and then the comedy. She can do everything. She can sing. If they have her dancing in season 3, I wouldn't be surprised. So really fantastic stuff from her.
I've got one for you guys. Can you point to the single best scene of the season? Like the one that, like, the single best scene?
Well, I know what Orso's going to pick.
Oh, do you?
I do.
I think it's the second music montage when he hijacks the car. Wait, can you drive in reverse for us, please, Sean?
Idol, you go first.
Hang on, let me finish yawning because it's 20 past midnight now.
I want to do another 4 hours, just for the record. I got material for days here, by the way. I'm skipping it all, just so you can go to bed.
Astra, like the courtroom scenes are strong. Like what?
Single scene.
I'll go for
one single scene.
Boimler's speech to Pike when he's talking. He comes absolutely earnestly and he reminds him about the people that are around him. That was the scene for me, I think.
And it's not just the speech too. It's because if you get the whole scene, there's the comedy before dressed up for Halloween and Pike's little boyish grin. There's a lot to that scene there, and they really. I'm gonna be a basic bitch, dude. We're in lockstep. It's that scene for me. The stuff in Under the Cloak of War, there's like 8 scenes or like a 9.999, but then the one in TOS it's a 10 for me. It runs the gamut, dude. I cried twice on stream with you guys, so it's really good. It's just it's a perfect like capstone. If you're taking away something from the episode, it's that. Yeah.
And on that, I think we'll have to wrap it up because
Stars.
It's
wait, the star's name.
Yeah,
Stars. What's your favorite?
Oh, it's easy.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That one's
it's
good.
So good. It's like guess what? Like you said, the rest of the episode is like a like a 9.999. The single motion, the single thing of I genuinely believe I am trying my best to be the better person, and you are making it physically impossible for me not to wrap my fucking fingers around your slimy throat. Just like the I am trying. That alone sells it.
He gives you the Butcher Jagal line, and then he gives you that line, Kif fought the hardest. That's a good Chills line. It's like that's when you realize he was actually the one. So there's a lot in that scene too.
Assemble them.
I have the two of them on the biobeds from that episode is probably my favorite. Either that or the Spock mom scene, because I am a sucker for
it's so good.
That was good.
Mom sacrificing for like their son, and son's just finally realizing that they're idiots.
Screw that! It's I will break you, Kirk.
That's really good. It's so
I am hungry. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining our 4-hour review of Strange New World Season 2. And I feel like, you're right, we've barely hit the cusp of it, but it has been
not good enough. Damn it, not good enough.
But it has been one of it's been a fantastic season. It's been it's been a Star Trek. It's been great fun. We will be back. Me and Stars will be back on Wednesday.
Sorry.
Now that's a Star Trek!
There it is. Me and Stars will be back on Walker on Wednesday with Klingon Honor Guard. We'll be playing through that again, and I'm gonna leave you with something
Spencer.
else. Damn, Spencer. Thank you, Otto, for setting us up. Thank you, Shai, for joining us. Thank you, Stars, as always, and thank you, everyone in the chat, for watching. Join Discord, check the website, all that. Like, subscribe, live long and prosper. I'm gonna leave you with some dank subspace reggae.
This news really changes everything. I can't believe how wrong I've been. Convinced myself we share the same feeling.